Hello, everybody, and welcome to the deepest dive on Resident Evil 4 Remake. This is, by God, the best, most thorough discussion about Resident Evil 4 on the internet. You have found it. This is MinnMax's 3-part game club discussion. In this chapter, this episode, we're covering chapters 7 through 11. Up through chapter 11, we're spoiling everything in this zone, nothing beyond. Spoiling nothing beyond chapter 11, so you found the right place. My name is Ben Hansen. MinnMax is a place about games, friends, and getting better. I'm joined by Jeff Marchiafava.
That's me.
Joined by Kyle, the Firecat Hilliard.
Sure, I'll take it.
You got it. And then Sarah Bazorski.
Hello.
Sarah, how does it feel to have a successful haircut in your life? Because I'm not even you. I don't think I'm you. And still I have seen like 70 comments about how much they love your hair. So I can't imagine what it's like to be at the eye of this compliment hurricane.
I guess I don't really read the comments, but I really appreciate the support because it is kind of wild going from like super long hair to super short hair.
Yeah.
So that's nice. I appreciate it.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever had such a drastic image change before, so that's fun.
Right. And just to have it met with like, by God, you've done it. That must be very comforting. We can just imagine.
Nailed it.
Yeah, you really, I mean, that is what the comments are saying. Every single one, Sarah. Okay. This discussion, this is a 3-part game club discussion. Thank you all for being here. If you followed us from part 1, thank you even more. There is a part 3 of this discussion. Next week, we're talking about everything else in the game from chapter 12 beyond, covering everything in Resident Evil 4 Remake. So if you enjoy this discussion, this is a little pact I ask that you make with us. If at any point during this discussion you say, by God, I'm glad this one outlet is diving this deep into a game as good as Resident Evil 4. If you have that instinct within your soul, please help support game clubs like this by going to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Couple options for you. If you jump in at the $2 tier on Patreon, you can enter the Discord. And people always say that I forget to promote this part. Discord, lovely, incredibly friendly community, secretly the heart of the entire MinnMax operation, but then also the deepest dive because there's a whole channel dedicated to Resident Evil 4 Remake, and that's truly the best, most thorough discussion about the game on the internet. It is just a great place to talk about this game. Anyways, you get access to the Discord. You get access to the Patreon posts where you can submit a comment for us to read during our final discussion. Because all of these comments, we have a bunch of comments from people that they submit over there on Patreon. They're all just coming from $2 supporters, which you could become. Or you may, you may jump up to that $5 tier on Patreon. At the $5 tier, you unlock the bonus podcast feed. It's right in your favorite podcast app. All of the deepest dive conversations, go right into your phone. You listen to them like a normal podcast instead of a schlub here on YouTube. And also there's early access to the MinnMax Show podcast that's completely ad-free. Our Patreon exclusive podcast, Party Chat. There's a ton of bonus content in there. So if you enjoy this format, please help support this format. And if you're screaming at your computer or your phone saying, why aren't they talking about this? Why are they being such idiotic fools when it comes to this topic? You can help fix our mistakes by going to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's and submitting a comment for us to read on the next discussion, and we can make everything just right. Okay, we had hundreds of people submit comments over there on Patreon. We like to play a little game called Most Common Comment for chapters 7 through 11 in Resident Evil 4 Remake. The castle area. What was the most common comment? Kyle, you look more confident than I've ever seen you at any time in your life.
I know, I was just thinking that it's like, I know this is coming every time, and
right.
I always forget to think about it until the moment right before.
It feels a little bit like the question of the week on the MinnMax Show podcast. Somehow that surprises people every time.
It's embarrassing, frankly. On my part. I'm going to guess the boss fight, though, with, you know, what it's called, like the right hand, like the big scary guy that you got to freeze.
The alien guy. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know its name.
Okay.
I think a lot of people probably had questions or comments about that boss fight.
Concerns. Okay. Noted. Jeff, what are you thinking?
I'm going to say playing as Ashley.
Playing as Ashley. That's up there. It's up there. Sarah, what do you think?
I'm going to say the new Luis co-op part of the game.
So
The mine
warm,
carts,
so warm. I'm sorry, it was the Krauser fight. Everyone loves Krauser. A lot of Krauser takes out there. People are strangely into Krauser.
That was like 5 minutes of a slap fight.
Sarah, I have the words slap fight written in my notes. Absolutely.
That was just like 2 dudes slapping each other with knives.
Well, look, you can have like one of the best laid out sections of any game ever with the overall castle area and one of the greatest Resident Evil games with Resident Evil 4. And then you can just have like a little bit of a slap fight. People are going to gravitate towards, oh, that slap fight. They want to focus on that. So
Not the mine carts? I'm shocked.
No.
I'm shocked and a little disappointed.
yeah, well, look, you can correct it by going over there to patreon.com/MinnMax yourself, Sarah, and submitting a comment all about minecarts and everything else you like.
By the way,
Yeah.
for us who played the original, when you got to that Krauser fight, were you like, oh, well, clearly I just don't know who this guy is because I haven't played all the Resident Evil games. But I bet this is a really exciting moment for long-term Resident Evil fans. And it was years later that I learned that his first appearance is Resident Evil 4.
It is.
I was
Really?
like,
Okay,
what?
That was my question.
I was like, who
Yeah.
is this guy?
Yeah.
Why is everybody bothering me? Like, why is everybody picking on me?
It is so confusing. Yeah, Clayton M on Patreon is with you. He says, who the F is this Krauser guy? Am I the only one that found the Krauser encounter jarring? This is my first Resident Evil game, and I kept thinking, did I miss some important backstory between he and Leon, or is this something from Resident Evil 2 that's missing me? It's set up to seem like an emotional reveal, but that didn't hit since I have no clue who this person is.
And that's the right reaction, so don't feel bad.
I mean, I've played Resident Evil 4. I'm still a little confused about who he is, especially like, you know,
I was so confident that he must have been someone in Resident Evil 1 that whose fate was unknown. You know what I mean? I was just so sure that he was an established character and this was like a big,
right.
Marvel hero showing up after the end credits situation. It's like, no, he's just a guy.
So in this one, though, when there's some implication during the fight where it's like 2 years ago with Operation Javier, blah, 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 blah. And is that like a Resident Evil movie? Is that like a CG film at this point that they're referencing? Or okay.
I don't know. That's
all
a
right.
good question.
Look, we
I don't
gotta
think so.
work
I think you're
this
just
thing.
supposed to infer that they trained together. And Krauser is sort of the narrative context for why Ashley even ended up in that town, right? He betrayed the president or whatever. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I don't know why you're so dismissive about Krauser, Kyle. You can't just say, yeah, whatever, to the beefcake
He is
of a
the most
man.
important character. You're right.
I mean, he's the most commonly commented upon character. Jeff, since the rest of us have played this game before, for the original, not the big remake here, you're coming in fresh and hot. What'd you think about this castle chunk of Resident Evil 4 remake?
I really liked it. I liked the fact that it felt so different, even though the core gameplay is still the same. But it was just such a shift in location, and then also having played Village, it was like, oh, I see all of these obvious inspirations, not just the Village part, but now this whole castle part. I liked the creepy little lord guy who showed up. He was a big old weirdo, or I guess a little weirdo. Yeah, it did a lot more surprising things in this section than I guess I was kind of expecting.
Yeah, it's such a good game for just constantly evolving things. We talked about it a little bit in the last section of like they could coast at any moment, and just for them to constantly be shaking it up. I feel like, I don't know if the chapter structure helps. Just it feels like they have the perfect level of variety. Just in each chapter alone, it's just perfectly doled out.
Yeah, that was another thing that really stuck out, of how it's just like perfect, pretty much 1 hour chunks that they've been feeding us this entire time. And it's impressive how consistent that is in terms of, you do your exploration or whatever, you have some kind of boss fight or ridiculous thing, and then it kind of wraps it up with some kind of story cliffhanger for the next episode.
Right.
And it's just been really consistent in terms of that.
Yeah. Drake H over on Patreon says, I tried playing through Resident Evil 4 several times back in the day and always fell off around the castle because I lost interest. I wasn't sure if the remake would make a difference, but here I am currently on my 4th playthrough. So yeah, I think it was worth it for them to remake the game, Kyle Hilliard. Elliot writes in and they say, Resident Evil 2 remake peaked early. The police station was this perfectly crafted puzzle followed by more rushed sewer and lab section. In comparison, Resident Evil 4 continues to get better with the environments. The village starts small before becoming this interconnected group of 6 different locations. The castle starts to feel like the police station, this interconnected labyrinth with multiple floors and levels. I'm excited to see if the game can stick the landing, which I think Resident Evil 2 failed to do. The rear bashing of Resident Evil 2.
There is a reputation for people kind of call the castle the sort of low point of Resident Evil 4.
Right.
Which I've never felt that way. I was always a little confused by that sort of criticism where I was like, I don't know. I always felt like the game was pretty consistent impressively, but
no, I'm with you. I mean, I remember definitely feeling like the castle dragged in the original. When I think back of like, yeah, what was annoying in that original game? It's like, I guess the castle kind of got a little bit long, but like this chunk, it feel like it absolutely flew by. And I wonder if part of that is what Jason Wojnar is getting at here. They write in, they say, hey, please tell Jeff that I did not call him a coward on the last episode. Apparently that was me doing a little ad-libbing for Jason Wojnar. Anyway, the castle is aesthetically the least appealing part of the game. I still had a lot of fun, but the village always appealed to me more. It's interesting you say that now, because even like, I went back and looked at original gameplay for Resident Evil 4 for the castle, and like, it looks so simple and drab. It looks like a room from The Sims. It's just like, there's not much going on there compared to this. Again, I think like the environment art team knocked it out of the park. Like every area, it's like the weird chandeliers where like the bodies are hanging down, or like there's that one part where you walk in, it's kind of like a dark little nook entryway, and there's just people worshiping this body that's in the wall, and there's just like a carpet that's like crumpled up and it's just like soaked in blood. It just, it feels like I know what it's like to touch that, Kyle. You know, you ever just touched a blood-soaked carpet in your life?
let me rack my brain. Come back, follow up with me, but I don't think I have.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought they did a good room with so many of the larger rooms were kind of, there would be some kind of event that was going to happen in there, but then they were really themed rooms that were all like super different. Like I can't remember if it was just called Water Room or something like that, but the one with all of the bubbling fountains of just black tar like stuff. Just a lot of really interesting, the dining room or whichever area that you go to. Yeah, just all those different rooms were very memorable.
I am horrified that no one on Patreon wrote in about how horrifying it was to watch Ashley drink that black goo crap. When they're pouring that in her mouth, that's like the most disgusting part of the entire game. It's like she's forced to drink that mummy juice. Remember that the internet was freaking out about years ago? It's just like the grossest crap. And just like, watching that go in her mouth is disgusting. Sarah, you like the castle?
Yeah, I always thought the castle, even in the original, was like one of my high points. I think it's because that's when it gets like kind of goofier, you know, like there's just a bunch of cultists, like they're always chanting in their little robes and they're like up to their little hijinks all the time, you know, like getting you in cages and stuff. They did take out my favorite part of the castle, which was the minigun. Like you'd be in this room and then all of a sudden in the middle of the floor, like a minigun would come up. And the guy in the red robe would get on and he would start like blasting you around the room.
Oh, is that right?
With his minigun. And like, that's like when it like clicked for me, Resident Evil 4. When I was like, this literally couldn't get any more ridiculous. And then like a mini Gatling gun comes out of the floor and you're like, oh, look, it got more ridiculous. I still enjoyed this castle portion. I think they edited it a little bit more. Definitely, even the village part, I think they took some stuff out. Like the cable car's missing now. So, like, they definitely edited the parts that kind of dragged a bit.
Wait. So the cable car... I thought cable car stuff was after the castle, right?
I thought that it was when you were picking, if you wanted to do... You were looking for Ashley, was it not? Okay. When you were doing, like, the two giants or the two chainsaw grannies?
It's, because the most recent version I played was the VR one. And
Was Ashley Wish You... I don't remember where the cable cars are,
because I remember playing through the castle in VR and getting on the tram system. But yeah, now that I think about it, it's like, I guess that the Skyway trams are gone, aren't they? Because we would have seen them by now.
Well, maybe they're still coming up without spoiling anything. But maybe, Von S writes over there on Patreon. They say, no more free rocket launcher? The gallery...
That's what I said
So they used to give you a free rocket launcher in the castle?
Used to, in the room with the little bridge that comes up.
Yeah.
That the guy takes away from you. There was like a glass case that had a rocket launcher in it.
Oh,
that you could break out and take.
Oh, God, yeah, that was the biggest push and pull of this entire section is going to the castle. I was like, I don't want to spend the money on the rifle. And it feels like there's going to be a rifle somewhere in this castle. So just like waiting it out, fully upgrading my Red 9, throwing all my money into the knife and the Red 9.
You didn't have a rifle?
No. I didn't have
the beginning part with the catapults?
No, I did not have a rifle.
Super handy.
Well, yeah, no,
really
S.
So you couldn't like hit that's insane.
Thank you.
That's
what I thought.
You're an insane person.
But I think
what about when Ashley was doing the switches for you and she keeps getting you didn't have a rifle then either?
No, that was a challenging area.
That's a great zone for the rifle. That's incredibly helpful there.
But that's the thing that's amazing is that the game can be balanced around all these things and it can still work even if you don't have a rifle. There's like a couple of tough shots, but it's still largely doable. So it wasn't until I was Ashley and then Leon again, and then you have that little rotator cube puzzle thing that I went and then got the, was it AGDQ or whatever the hell rifle there. That was like the first rifle. Yeah, that was the first one that I got, but I was holding out trying to save some cash. But do you have a rifle, Jeffem?
No, not for any of that stuff. Eventually the community talked me into buying one of them. I think the Stinger.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I got that one and the scope for it, but I had already gone through all that stuff as well. And it didn't seem too bad. I guess the Red 9 really pulls its weight in terms of its ability to aim a long ways away. Yeah,
I really didn't think it was that bad either. I really haven't bought miniguns. I got the riot gun shotgun, upgraded the hell out of that, and am enjoying that quite a bit. But like, has anybody bought the rocket launcher at this point?
They like raised the price on it.
Oh yeah?
It's too expensive.
They make it look so good, then the price goes up. They know exactly how to get you. That gun is no good. Kyle, have you bought guns?
Yeah, I mean, I have whatever the third tier of the pistol is, and I have the highest tier of the rifle. And the shotgun, too, the more compact one.
Yeah, okay.
I have that one now, too, which I didn't end up using a ton, over the course of these chapters. But yeah, I mean, I pretty much just sell all the old stuff to buy the new stuff anytime it shows up.
I guess I'm not confident enough to know that it's always an upgrade, but I guess Red 9 and Riot, like, I'm doing okay with this, and then I got my rifle-y thing.
I kind of miss the previous shotgun, like the Riot gun. The one that's like smaller in your inventory, it feels a little different.
It's more spread, I think, is the idea. Yeah. It's like I didn't really want that. I'm usually shooting at something pretty far away with the shotgun anyway, confusingly enough.
Yeah.
But Von S continues.
You should just get the rifle.
I mean, I have that rifle now, and I don't really like it that much. Maybe it's one of those things where now it's not going to be as effective for the rest of the game because I kind of missed the peak time to use it. But like having it taking out bugs and stuff later on, I'm like, I'm fine.
Did you have it for the two giants? Because it's pretty helpful there too.
I'll have to work through the time. I think so. Yeah, I would have. Yeah, because that was a later chapter. But Von S says, noting what Sarah noted, that the gallery got a hell of an update, and boy, is it much better than the minigun turret that was there previously. Bash in your turret, Sarah.
Better than the minigun turret?
They say not having flashbangs for the endless supply of headbusters sucked hard for me. Also, a quick little tidbit from the first conversation. This is the good stuff. They say the chainsaw dudes have bags on their heads since their head already burst and their wiggly plaga is already flailing about. The bag is to allow them to still use the chainsaw during the day, which is why their eye placement looks off. So it's kind of like their shield for the sun is the theory.
Weird that works, but okay.
You know what? I will absolutely go along with it.
That's where we draw the line. We're like,
Wait, this game is too silly for us. Who is this person? Jared Blake writes in. They say, Gloria las plagas, everyone. Gloria las plagas to you, buddy. I love how many expensive breakables are lying around the castle. It's a bit of a shame that I can't smash them all. Sometimes I'll shoot a china cabinet or decorative vase only to see a bullet-shaped dent in the china. I want to trash the camp, says Jared. It is a very good-looking castle.
I've been knifing all the plates, and they just absolutely exploded in June, and it's so satisfying.
You're supposed to.
And I also feel like I'm sticking it to the little Lord every time I go into a new fancy room of his.
Smart.
And I bust all his vases.
Down
and
with the
steal all his
bourgeoisie.
coins.
It does feel so good the first time you go in there just smashing up those nice faces. And like, shout out to the person who last week wrote in talking about how much more satisfying it is to use your knife than to just hit X on the boxes and vases. Because like having that like aggressive with the knife, it feels so much better. And it really feels like Salazar's wincing with every classic vase we destroy.
It cracks me up that Leon is just is so confident that there's stuff in there. You know, it's just like, well, clearly I gotta smash these, and look at that, there is stuff in here. Who would have known?
He's still an absolute maniac. But now it makes sense if he just hates Salazar so much. Jot writes in and says, I hate the crate snakes! Why did you do this to me, Capcom? I thought it escaped them already! No. Crate snakes are absolutely in the castle as well. They're everywhere you least expect them to be. Let's see. Ooh, Cyrus says, as someone who isn't the biggest fan of the series, the castle part was everything I don't like. Door puzzles, narrow corridors, backtracking. For me, the series works best in wider spaces like the village. That's interesting, because like, well, corridors and puzzles, that's Resident
narrow
Evil.
as like the Resident Evil 2 police station, though. Like
True.
It definitely still feels more open and linear than the police station.
You have your kind of combat rooms, or even the places that are more narrow, kind of like the walkway outside the castle. It still like wraps back around on itself in a way that feels a little more complex than just hallway to hallway and whatnot.
Yeah, and I didn't really have any feelings of being lost and not knowing, like I have one random key and I don't know where I'm supposed to be going or what I'm supposed to be doing with it.
Right.
Or, some plaque that I have to stick somewhere. It all flowed pretty smoothly for me.
Yeah. Johnny Magrippus writes in and said, hey, did anyone read Parasites in Their Ecology Volume 2? It's a book about parasites that have the ability to control their hosts. I had no memory of this from the original. So now is excited to scroll through and see if Resident Evil 4 referenced cordyceps, the Last of Us way to do not zombies. Spoiler alert, it didn't, said Johnny. That's true, but I read that book about parasites, and I think they talk about insects like controlling host brains in there.
Maybe they didn't call them cordyceps, but I thought they talked about that ant, right? That
I think so. Yeah, it gets really close, if not. And it was weird, I think last week we talked about how inspired Naughty Dog was, obviously, by Resident Evil 4 for The Last of Us. And it's weird that I forgot to connect that very basic idea of like, oh yeah, it's also about a parasite that controls your brain. It's just like the most direct one-to-one connection between Resident Evil 4 and The Last of Us. Let's see. Should we jump into Chapter 7? Work chronologically through this sucker?
Sure.
Let's see. Michael L. wrote in and says, all I'll say is F the catapult section.
It's actually a lot easier than it was in the original.
Is that right?
They actually toned it down significantly. There used to be a lot more enemies.
Okay, and it's not just a matter of like you didn't have the rifle in the beginning.
Well, if you're
in the
using
original?
your rifle and shooting the explosive barrels,
right?
In theory, shouldn't be too bad. My issue was that it used to be that you could like place Ashley places. You used to be able to be like, stay, don't move. And in this one, she follows you directly, or she kind of lags behind you. And like I would move out of the way of the catapults, but Ashley wouldn't. So she just got like blasted. And I'd be like, Ashley, look alive! Like there's flaming boulders.
Did she die, or do you just had to go help her?
No, she just got down, and I was like, she literally got direct hit with with like a flaming rock, and I was like, don't worry, girl, I'll patch that up for you.
Has anyone had Ashley like die on it? Can't she?
Oh,
die?
I killed Ashley.
You kill? Okay. Does Leon do that thing where he's
shot
like,
her a couple times.
What was I thinking? Like that he did in the original.
How will I tell the president?
Yeah.
Baby eagle.
Does he do that?
I don't remember.
Like, oh man. He's like, oh no, what have I done?
Bummer.
Yeah, I shot her too. I don't remember if there was a specific cutscene just for it. I mean, I've seen a lot of her getting carried off into the darkness, but I don't know about like the specific death cutscene thing.
Yeah, I saw there was
in my defense. She stood up in front of my gun.
Yeah, hey,
when
look,
I was shooting.
we hear it a lot. That's right.
It was entirely on her.
She jumped in the way.
There was a GIF I saw getting shared around where someone was coming at Leon with like a hammer, and he did the crouch dodge, and Ashley just got like hit hard with like a hammer because he crouched and she was like behind him. It was it's so brutal.
Oh God, I feel bad every time I get hit by that like one hit kill in anything in this game when the giant tentacle head rips my head off and Ashley has to see it. Because I always just think like canonically, like this is worse than anything anybody had to see in The Last of Us at any point. If Ashley just had to watch Leon's head get ripped off in front of her and then she's just in the heart of a cult castle and can't get out on her own. Like what a nightmare. E writes in and says, I love Resident Evil 4 and it's amazing how well the pacing still holds up today. However, I wish Ashley could level up in a way. Start throwing vases, kicking, or something. I wish she would naturally get more useful or at least level up her commands. All she does is make weird sex breathing noises behind Leon while staring at his butt. Okay, E, that's too far.
That just sounds like a description of my streams when I play Resident Evil 4.
I kept my eyes and my mind open during this section, Sarah, to be like, okay, maybe there's some Leon hunk juice going on every once in a while. I can see it. It's no longer laughable as a concept to me, so congratulations.
I definitely, the first time I started playing, I took like 5 minutes to look at his shirt to see how it is baggy. It is baggy. There's no abs.
It wasn't baggy in the original. It was tight.
Jiren is very much on your page, Ashley, saying, during the catapult section, I cut it a little close, avoiding incoming ball of fire. It smashed directly into Ashley, who was then crouched on the ground, fully engulfed in flames, asking for help, as if she had just been simply knocked down. It was pretty comical. I'm glad they removed her health bar, but it does break the immersion sometimes. Still worth it.
I'd rather not have her health bar. I think that's
I never gave her health items anyways. It doesn't matter to me if she has health or not.
You're on your own, kid. Like, so with the rifle, I'm trying to think, I certainly shot as many catapults as I could with the Red 9 when I could see a red barrel and stuff, but I'm trying to think if there's any instances where it would just be like right out impossible to do unless you had the rifle. But I guess if you weren't as frustrated, because I was dying all the time from these damn catapults.
It's just easier to see him and hit him, is what it comes down to.
I guess so.
But I don't
you can
think
also
that would be
headshot.
Possible.
You could like see him with like the fire arrows too, and you could just see him up on the thing and you could headshot him. Right,
for sure. That makes sense. But like one of the iconic sounds of Resident Evil 4 for me was in the castle section. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't basically every weirdo in the robe just say like, go hello, go hello? They would just like chant it.
They had like the same chant.
Yeah. Is there a single go hello in this entire section? I didn't really hear it. Compared to like the Troste T from the village section, I felt like they kept all those specific lines the same. And in this, they're shaking it up, man.
There's a couple John Mulaney, Nick Kroll, oh hellos.
Okay, well that's close. It's nice there's a lady cultist now, so pretty progressive cult. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're not all just weird Sith lords. There's some Sith ladies too.
Must have missed that. I think I was like really not like the catapult part, but like the beginning to middle part of the castle. I felt like the pinch. I was having issues with like resource management. So I was like running around with like 4 rifle bullets and like a prayer at some points in that section. Yeah,
it is tough. I've definitely learned to love the suplex. I know this is Resident Evil 4 101, but like it does do a lot more damage than the melee to the front, right? Like I don't know if I've ever suplexed someone they've got back up. I think it might be quite a bit more damage, but you just have to take the time to run around to the back.
I mean, to me, it was always been like the suplex is like an individual attack, where the kick it can still be like I'm going to take out a bunch of people. What the suplex can do too, but it's just a little trickier, you know?
Right. Do you think it's smart of them to not have a timer on that X? Is that better game design to leave you wondering, like, because when they start to get up, it's always that scary thing, like, do I run over and try and go for that kick or try and go for the suplex? Would it be cleaner if they had a little timer to let you know exactly when the melee option is going to deplete?
I don't think I would like it. I like that sort of creepy, scary factor of like not knowing if you're making the right call by sprinting forward.
It's always that question of, do I charge in there? You know, there's guys around them, which aren't going to hurt you if you do like start doing the kick, if you get it activated in time. But I don't. That's one of those things where it's better ambiguous.
Elliot writes in, says, the catapults killed me 4 to 6 times and was the only time so far I've considered turning the game off and walking away. Just a random massive spike in difficulty forcing you into this mass sprint. I didn't find this fun or to be a unique challenge. I do think it is like the quote unquote worst design part of the game so far. It does just feel like a complete crapshoot for whether or not I'm going to get hit by this giant flaming fireball.
Were you guys not like coming up around the corner and aiming for the red barrel? Like, I
Ben
like
didn't
really
even have a rifle, so
Yeah.
God knows what other people have been doing.
I was trying to
I
parry
spent
them with
very
my
little
knife.
of my time running from balls of flame.
Really?
Like I was very methodical and almost approached it like a puzzle of like, oh, let me see how I can take out these catapults.
I think you're just smarter.
Were the fireballs one-hit kills for you guys?
No, I don't
yeah,
think
I guess
so.
not.
Okay. Yeah.
And for
'Cause
you,
I got through that section pretty easily, but I don't know how much of that was being on the easier difficulty level, but
right.
I didn't get hit that many times.
And did they lob fireballs at you, or was it just green herbs that they had in there?
It was squishmallows.
Squishmallows.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's not so bad, I guess. Captain
Let's talk
Cobblepot.
Squishmallows.
Captain Cobblepot writes in and says, "All right, so adding to the catapult section comments, did you take the cannon and just blast a few of those cultist freaks in your direct path? It's very
Yeah.
satisfying to get an unintentional but appropriately named trophy called Overkill." Oh yeah, I mean that's
absolutely.
everything that's great about Resident Evil is just getting to that point of getting the cannon and just aiming right at those freaks and just letting her rip.
I didn't, and I instantly regretted it. But then there was another cannon later that I rectified.
Okay,
Took a
nice.
trio. Yes.
They say, I took the extra liberty of shooting half of the medallions with the cannon as well, and Ashley ecstatically cheers you on as you take out each blue target. That's amazing.
That's funny.
Did we talk about it last week? Kyle, the blue medallions, were those on the map in the original?
Yeah, they were. I mean,
If you got the
Sarah
treasure
might
map?
even know better than I would, but like you could buy the map to find those, which is funny because I've heard a couple people almost bring that up as a complaint. Like, they just show you where they all are. And it's
Right.
like, yeah, they always have. Like, as far as I remember.
That's the point of buying the map, I guess, yeah.
Maybe you had to buy the treasure map in the past and some people didn't or something like that.
I definitely caved to your way of the treasure map, like halfway through the castle. I finally got it. And it's amazing how much it can change how you're playing this game. Because suddenly it's like, oh God, there's so many treasures I missed. And then that was the first time of like really backtracking. And I ran back along the whole catapult, like that entire area
I
just to
looped
get
that,
all
like,
of those.
3 times ultimately, I think. Because I missed one treasure. Yeah, so it wasn't too bad though. If you go through a second time, they actually put new enemies and stuff in there. So
Right.
it's kind of fun. But the third time, I was like totally cleared out. So I was just like running around an empty castle.
Yeah, it is weird to be like, is it worth it to get like these 3 rubies to go through 20 bullets? Like,
But the enemies drop bullets.
That is
though,
true.
So it's like there's really it's interesting with Resident Evil 4 because I almost just don't worry about ammo at all.
yeah.
Because even when I'm low, it's like the game will throw some ammo your way if you really need it. Like we're in like old school Resident Evil, like the original version of 2, maybe like you could really truly get stuck and be in a boss fight suddenly with like 2 pistol bullets, you know. But
Right.
that's not really the case with 4.
Yeah, I completely missed so many of the hanging treasures. I was not looking up at all for any of these things. Then I get the treasure map and I'm like, where is this? Oh, I see there's a little dangly thing in all of these rooms that I missed. So many crowns that have gone unjeweled. Sean Mills. Oh, actually, let me see. There is somebody. Who is this? I'll tell you who it is. Actually, I won't. They didn't submit their name. You got to leave your name, everybody. But anonymous here, they say, do we think the game is employing the same adaptive difficulty from the original? Ashley got taken out a couple of times in the room where they dropped the walkways you're crossing. Well, it took 6 shotgun blasts to down the red zealot the first time. I downed him in 2 on my last attempt. I've noticed this with the ammo and health economy too. If I'm low on health, a green herb drops. If I'm low on shells, shells drop. It feels insanely well balanced at times.
Enemies their damage intake is changing. I wonder if maybe they just got lucky with like headshots or something with the shotgun maybe the second time around. But
yeah,
I believe so. I believe it's kind of like giving you what you need when you need it.
Okay.
If your back's up against the wall.
Yeah, and there were segments the escort part where Ashley separated from you, where I was wondering, like, that felt much easier than I suspected it would have, like, I wonder if for the difficulty levels as well, if that's going at like a scenario by scenario basis of how they're changing it up. Because on the assisted mode, I could kind of see through some of the smoke and mirrors on that part, especially where it's like, we're going to get Ashley, but they're like really taking their time to like actually move up, especially if you're not looking at them, it seems like. And the characters that were on my level as well, if I was just aiming at Ashley, it's like, you guys are really just kind of standing there in the background waiting for me to look at you and see that you're there, and then it's like, oh, I'm on. Now I'm gonna.
They don't want to interrupt you. Okay, they don't want to spook you or anything. They're just excuse me. Yeah. That part was a lot easier too. The Ashley tower defense part, I noticed too, was, I think it went a little bit faster for me this time. I had issues getting to it. Like, I suffered from, in the black sludge room, from Ashley refusing to she doesn't like run away, she just kind of crouches down. And I'm like, could you just like move, please? Like 5 steps to the left before I lob a grenade at you, Ashley. Yeah, I don't know if I like the new Ashley loose or close, loose or tight. I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah? Are you using it at all?
I'm mostly just using tight, because whenever I put her on loose, she's like, either, like, I don't know, she's usually just crouched in a corner.
Yeah, I have not really used it. My name is Dan writes in, and they're asking, is anybody actually using the give me space option for Ashley? I have now shot Ashley in the dome on 2 separate occasions because she chose to run forward into the enemy crowd while she was, quote, giving me some space. It hasn't been horrible by any means, but I'm pretty much just keeping her close for the majority of combat scenarios now. Yeah, I haven't really been messing with that. I'd be curious to see like the pro level play when they are using it, but it seems fine to just kind of ignore as a feature and you'll still get through okay, I think.
I think in a weird way, I kind of like it for that reason. I don't really want to have to think about where she is, Like, I don't want to drop her off somewhere while I go fight and then have to go back. Where did I leave her? Like, I kind of prefer the simplification of it, but I definitely see the downside as well.
Yeah. Randolph Sparks here is totally with you, Sarah, saying, maybe I'm just better at games now, but I remember the water room being a lot harder. It's still tense and frantic, but I made it through the first time. I remember being stuck on it for a bit when I played it back in high school.
I think there were more enemies. I think they've like cut down on the amount of enemies in the castle significantly.
That's surprising.
And they've changed up the variety, because now there's like the head guys that can kill you in one hit that go on the ceiling. I don't know if those were in the original. I don't remember them.
Go on the ceiling?
They're like the spidery guys?
Well, there's like those guys that have like the big tube that can rip your head off.
Yeah.
When I was playing in the water room and I was underneath the stairs grabbing the crank, he like jumped up onto the ceiling.
Really?
And then the head came down on me and tore my head off.
Weird.
Yeah, I think it was one of like, I don't know. I think that's one of the only few moments that can happen, but I was shocked.
Interesting. Yeah, that's surprising to hear from people who just recently played that original, that they dial down the enemies, because it just feels like this game is just masterful for every encounter. It pushes you to that limit of you just being like, Jesus Christ, game. And then it just goes like a little bit beyond. Like that water room is such a good example of like, all right, I get it. Like my heart is racing. I cannot handle this. And then they know just to push you a little bit more there. But that room is so stressful with the old classic bolt thrower in particular, because like you're shooting up at all of them. So if you miss,
none of us would know
that bolt's just getting
no
lost.
one is using the slowest reload.
Well, to your detriment, everybody. Jeff, I mean, are you doing okay? I know you're at a lower difficulty, but
yeah, I think
not that it's a big deal, Sarah. Not that it's a big deal. We shouldn't laugh at him.
I think the fact that I have completely leveled up
not that there's anything wrong with that
at this point. So I don't know if it, how much easier the difficulty level is, as much as it is just the Red 9 is completely kicking ass, and so that the first chapter 7 in this section, which is the one that I streamed, everything went really well, and I was feeling pretty good for the fact that was the chapter I was streaming. But then it got more. Some of the other chapters got a little more difficult. But yeah, it's. I faced that crossroads again of like, I probably could go up to the next difficulty level. But what am I going to get out of it? You know,
I'll tell you what.
I'll be a little more stressed out. I'll have to spend more time managing, you know, my ammunition and stuff. And I have come to the conclusion that's just not kind of the core tenets of a Resident Evil game don't appeal to me as much as it does other people who like that kind of scraping by with a few bullets at a time. And
I mean, it's not typically my cup of tea, but I think I was losing sleep about this, Jeff. I'm wondering why I'm so happy with almost any other game to be like, play your way, whatever. I play a lot of games on easy, have a good time. But I think it matters if the point of the game is tension, which so much of Resident Evil 4 is to make that tension. It's like, if it's Call of Duty or Uncharted, play on easy. You're supposed to be a superhero, who cares? But the point is you should feel a little, oh crap, I'm down to nothing. That's the thrill of the game, you know?
Well, the reason that I am not interested in turning it up though is I still feel that tension just from but it's not like the scarcity of ammo. It's the creepy ass enemies who are, you know, their heads are exploding right in my face, and then I'm getting attacked by some creepy tentacle monster. And so I still feel plenty of tension playing it. It's just I'm not worried about resources as much. And there still were sections in this one which was weird, where I was really running out of ammo as well. It's weird, and now everyone's stretching their arms. I don't
just keep there. I don't know. Everyone's got their hands up.
Miss Pazordsky?
Can we talk about Salazar's lack of hat?
No, we can't.
And the fact that he looks like my dead grandma now? When the hairstylist fucked up her hair, and my mom said it's a good thing your grandma's dead because she would hate that hairstyle. Because that's what it looks like.
Well, you're not leaving me an option with that type of lead-in. Can we talk about? Can we go chronologically?
But wait, don't you see him first though?
Well, there's something you see before that.
Oh yeah, where's the line? They changed the line where it's, what does he say? Like, no thanks, bro. Like, now it's something, she's fine just here, or she's fine with me.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think is the new line.
Let's let the lady decide.
Right,
That's what the lady wants.
But I think even before all this, Chris W. writes in and says, I think the scariest part of the game for me so far was when the wooden planks break and you fall through to the Garrador fight. Garrador? How do you pronounce
I feel
this?
like you should have seen those planks. You should have said,
Did you see
that's a
that?
trap.
Oh, I didn't see that at all.
Yeah, I looked at those planks and I said, that's suspicious. That's interesting.
Smart.
I'm going to fall through that.
Yep, that absolutely got me as well, Chris W. You're walking around, and then that's when you go in the creepy dark basement, with Wolverine chained up.
Oh, right.
Which, Jeff, you say you got the same emotions, and I don't want to judge. I don't want to keep coming back to this. You play your way.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna judge. Well, I will tell you.
Yeah, tell us how Jeff
If I may, I watched your frickin' stream. Patton, I read your book. I watched your stream, and the Garrador fight, which is like an unbelievably tense moment. It was really like 2 pistol pops to the hip, and then he went down. You're like, well,
Maybe
moving
he's just
on.
Really good.
No,
Have
he's
you
not.
considered this?
No, he's not.
Yeah,
I think that you should have felt that.
Like I said,
you should have felt that more.
That chapter specifically, I don't know why I was doing so great. And like I said, by the end of that, I was thinking about changing the difficulty, but then the other ones got harder and more tense.
Okay.
So,
I love the chains hanging from the ceiling that you like can't get around, basically. Like
I got around him, Kyle. Check the
boy,
footage.
did he.
I got around him, and he still was like, "No, I'm busting out of here and coming after you." So
fewer chains
Well,
on
because
these.
you couldn't pull the lever without jingling the chains,
Yes.
which kind of pissed me off. Because I was being a really sneaky sneakster through the whole thing, and I was like, "Here I go." And then the chains jingled, and he came after me, and then I was like, okay, maybe it was just a bad angle. Let me loop around, and we'll try again. And it was like, no, jingle jangle. And in the original, they gave you the bell first. Like, they presented you with the bell in the same spot.
Right.
And I don't know if you had to kill him in the original, when you first encounter. I don't remember, but I do remember the bell specifically and running frantically in a circle.
Yep.
The thing about the chains for me, which is like this comes with the knowledge of what I'm experiencing, right? It's like, oh yeah, this is that the blind enemy is coming up soon, and I'm sort of and it wasn't even in the context of the fight, it wasn't that I loved the chains. It was just like where they presented them right before I met him, where I was like, I see what you guys are doing.
Yeah,
and I commend you for it. This
it's
is really
super smart. Yep, Dan G wrote in about that.
They set it up with like the wooden beads, you know? They kind of like lull you in with the ASMR of the wooden beads, and then they hit you with like the evil jingle jangle chains.
The jingle jangles, yeah.
Yeah, Dan G wrote in about that as well, talking about how smart that is to make it so that instead of just a locked door, which it was in the original, that you couldn't get out, I guess, until you killed him. So I guess there it was gated that way. That just like, all right, well, there's a thing here, but it will make noise and it'll absolutely destroy you. And then yeah, Derek G also wrote in loving that, the love of the dangling chains. Let's see, Brian.
We coined them jingle jangles.
Sorry, the jingle jangles. That's right.
Please correct yourself.
Brian Paradise writes in and says, I really liked both encounters with the Gardoors. My frustration with boss encounters in the Resident Evil games is that sometimes you can't tell if you're doing the right thing or if you're doing any damage at all. With the Gardoor fights, you know what alerts them and you know where to attack. This made these encounters way more tense and strategic than the other bosses in this section. In the first encounter, I ended up getting the trophy for only using knives without even trying, says Brian. Hell yeah.
Brag.
A little bit of a brag. Then you work your way out of there. By the way, just like the design, like when you get to see the close-up of him and just like you get to see the stitch over his eyes. It's like, oh my God, it's so brutal. Let's see, then there's a gong puzzle. You work your way on, blah, blah, blah. You jump over a chandelier and then Ashley says, as if. So that's pretty fun.
Ash, you're not my mom, I believe is how Leon responds to that. And then Ashley helps you solve the puzzle there. I was shocked. That was the puzzle where you had to ding the bell on one side, you had to cross the chandelier, and then she had to like ding the other one.
Right.
And I thought I was like, I'm going to have to walk back over there. And Ashley was like, don't worry, Leon, I got it. And she dinged, and I was just so impressed.
She's
the bar is
there.
on the floor for Ashley.
I think I dinged it before I went over there. I did like her commenting on the chandelier bit, though, of just being like, this is absurd. Like, what's happening here?
Yeah, by the way, it made me laugh when you get to the castle for the first time and you just see like a hallway and there's like 4 guys in robes that just walk by. Now she's like, oh, what is happening? Oh my God, what are they? It's like, you've seen the most horrific stuff already, Ashley. And the idea that just like 4 guys in robes is breaking your brain. Come on. Jared Piers writes in and says, I've been pleasantly surprised by the way Ashley has been portrayed in this remake. She felt purposely annoying in the original, but in this one, she seems like a regular person put into a terrifying situation. Perhaps female representation in games is slowly improving, says Jared. Perhaps females are on the up and up, after all. I do think they are handling Ashley pretty well. There's still a part of me where it's like, yeah, but imagine if she was actually like a cool character. Like, would it hurt anything that's truly at the core of Resident Evil 4 if she was more likable than just baseline annoying like she was in the original, which is about where I'd put her for the remake here?
So you want her to would be more involved in combat or just like be more quippy, like with smarter quips, you think?
Something I guess more interesting. I mean, I do. There are a couple moments later on where her quips got me. When she's in her own section and all of the knights are tracking her and stuff, and she's like, oh, I can't handle one more night. And then she goes to that next room. She's like, oh, what are you talking about? That section made me laugh because then the knights started chasing after her, and she's had some line too where she's running around from the knights and she's like, oh, really long. And like, it's like, I
remember being like, oh God, I hope, like, please don't move. And then like, I was literally saying the same exact thing as her at that point. And then they immediately start moving. And I was like, girl, and then she was like, I'm sick of this. And I was like, girl, me too.
Yeah. So you know what? Maybe she is matching our emotions enough. Maybe she's better than I realized. But people like her now. There's a whole Ashley defense force out there.
It's the Skort, honestly.
Is
That's
it?
where they wrapped up her whole image.
Interesting. Rick and Maru writes in, and Tyler too, and says, I just wanted to give another shout out to Leon, his dialogue and delivery. We get the occasional moment of him playing the hero, acting the cool guy, and other times just being the strangest protagonist I have had the pleasure of playing as. One moment in particular was getting on the castle trolley for the first time. Ashley innocently asks, you don't get car sick or anything, do you? And Leon menacingly replies, you're about to find out.
Just maintains eye contact with it the whole time. Am I going to throw up on you?
Just cool stuff.
By the way, there's like a tram in the castle.
That's
cool.
It's Disney.
I was scared to take it for a really long time, so I did all my backtracking before I even got in the tram. And then after all that, I got in the tram. I was like, God damn it, you're telling me this is what brought me right there. Let's see. Mitch writes in with a topic near and dear to Sarah's heart and her entire family's heart. They say the new Salazar is beautifully nasty in ultra high definition, but I miss his tri-corner hat, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Fun fact, in the fiction of this game, he was born in 1984 and is only 20 years old during the events of Resident Evil 4.
What?
I like how the big upgrade in the Resident Evil 2 remake was Mr. X got a hat. And so for Resident Evil 4, they're like, taking the hat away.
No hat.
What?
No hat for you.
What is it? They saw the tri-corner hat as being too silly? What do you think the logic was?
I saw somebody asked them why they took the hat away. And they said, he's a serious guy, and who wears a hat inside? And I was like, this is a Disney castle with bug cultists and a Disney tram ride on the inside, but the hat was just like a bridge too far.
Right. It is bizarre. People were writing in saying like, oh, he looks like Margaret Thatcher. Like, I don't know what this look is. He's like the king from Hamilton. Like, I don't know what this design inspiration was that they're going for Salazar.
They wanted him to like look more serious, and I was like, well, you missed that by a mile. He looks like my dead grandma.
Ashley, Sarah, you're really bumming everybody out.
No, like that's literally what he looks like. Why'd they make him look like a Midwest old grandma?
Did you send photos to Capcom?
Probably.
You shouldn't have done that.
They were there.
First mistake.
Paying our respects.
I don't
Thank you.
understand it.
A green herb on the casket. Randolph Sparks writes in and says, I love the remake, but one thing I miss from the original is Salazar constantly taunting you. In the original game, he straight up hijacks Hunnigan's signal and is constantly calling you to talk S. It was gloriously
no more
stupid and cheesy.
from Salazar.
I'm confused about
he
that
like
tech.
calls you over his like castle intercom system.
Right, which is fun.
But he's like, oh, the little prince, but it's like it's not the same vibe, you know. He's like, oh, little prince gonna save your princess, and
It's more disconnected. You like the thing of him actually hacking into it. Although it is confusing, like that technology for the intercom, his codec system, because like Luis is on it. It's like, how is everyone able
Ada's
to?
on it.
Right.
Everyone has his number.
But then the part that's confusing is it's a classic Metal Gear problem too. But Leon's like talking to Luis at the start of Chapter 7 over the intercom, and he's like relaying something to Ashley, and then Leon starts to explain it, and Ashley's like, "Don't worry, I heard it." It's like, wait. So how is Leon here? Is it just coming through a speaker for him?
He's got his AirPods on like speaker mode. He's just like,
I don't know what's happening.
Ashley?
Yeah, but obviously it's still fun when Salazar has this weird tube intercom system. And Mr. Kennedy, please, Mr. Kennedy. My name is Dan says, now that we're done debating if remake Leon is hotter than the original Leon, or if Leon's even hot at all, yeah, that's right out. That's gone. Can we please agree that original Salazar is much more of a hottie than remake Salazar? Original Salazar is scrumptious, and I'd let him step on me, if you know what I mean. Jesus Christ, my name is Dan. Is that...
he is like the polar opposite of Lady D, isn't he? He's just like a small,
A little short,
man.
little short lord.
Has Resident Evil Village changed the internet sexuality in general? We're now just being stepped on as like
Village?
5 times as, I don't know, welcoming?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think so.
Yes, it has. Yeah.
Thank you for doing bare minimum. It's all I ask.
Made it cool.
Just say
That's
enough
what
to
it did.
let us move on. Scooby-Doo. I'm sorry, not Scooby-Doo. Bread writes in about Scooby-Doo.
Whoa, wait.
That's not even
I'll
close.
get to it. Bread says, the new way this remake briefly separates the player from Ashley is a great indicator of the new tone they struck with this remake. Ashley,
don't like it.
Ashley being possessed by the parasite and pulling the knife on Leon, still a little goofy, but it's also effectively creepy. It's also a far cry from the original, which featured Ashley just sort of randomly running into that spinning wall trap from Scooby-Doo.
I loved the Ashley wall.
I do not remember that. It is just like her...
She pretty much just like backs up against a wall. Like
Okay.
she's chatting with Leon, and she like goes ahead and she's just like backing up, and like the metal irons just go like zerp over her chest, like perfectly her size, and then the wall flips,
so
and you're
silly.
like,
And
"Whoa, Ashley!"
Whoa.
And the remake here, she runs away because she's embarrassed. Is that the?
Well, yeah,
She's
because
like
she gets
so
consumed.
embarrassed that she like almost stabbed you, and like, oh my god, that's
Yeah,
so
that's
cringe.
weird.
And then let me just run away.
I mean, my first reaction was like, Leon, get your knife back. I think she dropped it. Like, do not
Right.
like leave that thing behind. But I did have a moment of like, why is she running away? Like, there is
got
no
that.
world where she would run away, no matter how embarrassed she was.
I don't know, man. I connected with that person. I got that idea of like, she tried to stab him and he like stopped the knife and his hand was bleeding and she was all possessed. Like I think she was just so freaked out by what was happening to her and she tried to kill the only person that she knows here. Like I get that idea. I'm just kind of panicking.
But then what's even weirder is like when you eventually find her, she's just been sitting in like a 5-star resort the entire time. Like I literally went through hell during that part because that's kind of like a new section. And then you find Ashley and she's just like sniveling on a plush sofa in like an artistically like a beautiful room. And I'm like, I was suffering and you were just here the entire time?
Yeah,
you weren't even like trapped on a wall?
Let us follow you, Ashley. You clearly know how to do it. Interata says, I really like the scene where Leon reunites with Ashley in Chapter 8. He reassures her that what she went through is terrifying. Probably thinking of his own experience in Raccoon City and dropping his cool guy persona to comfort her. It was an unexpectedly touching moment in the game. Yeah, I thought that was nice, you know, and he's like, we will beat this together, and that whole thing. That was the first, I feel like this was the scene that we were all expecting them to have inserted in the first chunk of like, we need some attempt at a bonding scene between them. And this was kind of it.
Totally false statement though. He failed to mention the drinking bug juice later, but
that's true.
Don't worry, we'll get you out of this. There's no evidence to suggest that he knows what he's doing or that he's going to get you out of this. But
do you guys know that Twitter account? I think it's like, is it Sunni Legend? Is that what it is? Where they have the really
yeah.
They just do amazing, like, they're really good at action games. And they make these amazing GIFs where they slow and speed up time and stuff like that. Well, they had one with, like, Leon that they did recently, Resident Evil 4, where he totally wiped the floor with, like, 1,000 monks. And I just watched it. I just remember thinking, like, I wish I could be that for Ashley. Because me, like, when she's with me, it's like I'm stumbling over myself. I'm missing shots.
O.J. Simpson.
Like, stepping on bear traps.
A bunch, you know? Like, and then this guy is just like, oh, that's actually the Leon I think you're supposed to be in the game.
That's right. Eric Z says, I really like how they've improved the interactions between Leon and Ashley in the remake, and it really shows in this chapter. Their friendly/flirty, may I say, banter has really made them feel a lot closer compared to the original, and it's made the journey more fun, but maybe it's just me. It's light enough, yeah. The Chun writes in.
It feels flirty to me this time around.
It's pretty hot. The Chun writes in and says, Ashley's dialogue during this chapter's shooting range is genuinely motivating. I only completed a few of the challenges at the first one, but with lines like, you got this, Leon, and high score, here we come, and that was awesome, nice shot, show them what we got. I feel compelled to go after every gold token available now that Ashley's here. You know what, Ashley? We do got this, says the Chun. Yeah, she's there for you.
That is like just a stupid psychological thing about... I started liking Ashley a lot more in this section too, and it's really just she'd say nice shot when I'd shoot a medallion, you know, one those little blue medallions, or every now and then I'd I'd kill a guy and she'd be like, whoa, great job. And it's like, yeah, that's all I need. Just be slightly positive. You know, she'll turn a crank every now and then or throw a lantern at some guy, and it's like, all right, you're pulling your weight. Good job.
I do think the game is really doing a great job of not making it, at least at this point, feel too artificial for alternating so many chapters or chunks of chapters of like, Ashley's gone, Ashley's with you, Ashley's gone. So for Chapter 8 for Ashley to be gone, it is that refreshing thing. It's like, okay, I'm by myself. I only need to worry about myself. But like, it'd be so easy just for like the light switch to be turned on to like Ashley section, not Ashley section. But it always feels somewhat organic, even if I guess it is as silly as her being embarrassed about trying to stab you and running away. It's like, it checks out. That seems fine. Give me a reason to run around by myself for a while. Go up on those castle walls one more time. Fred DeNovo says, at the beginning of Chapter 8, did you all try to get the red herb looking plant that is right next to the door frame to the left? It looks exactly like the one I spent way too long clicking around on. I took screenshots that I'll share in the Deepest Dive channel in the Discord to see if I'm crazy or if the game is crazy. I'm sure the game is crazy, Fred. I went back and looked, and there's a lot of plants in that area, so if you're just used to clicking on everything that looks like an herb, I get that. You're not crazy. You're fine. God, so now in this section, Chapter 8, they have the body armor in the shop. That's a real godsend. Jumped on that immediately. Also, I think...
It's just too bad it covers up the Leon Kennedy tramp stamp a little bit too much.
Is
like,
that right?
he keeps it on, and I was like, what's the point of this if you're just going to cover it?
Right. Do you have a mod for the tramp stamp? Is there actually a tramp stamp, or what's going on here?
You don't know about the one in the game?
No.
No, I've been nodding, like just assuming everyone else knew what you were talking about.
Kyle, bad podcasting, man. What is this?
There's no Leon Kennedy tramp stamp mod in the
God
game. It's
damn
just
it.
a PC mod
Okay.
that puts him in a crop top with a tramp stamp. But if you put the vest on, it covers everything.
Have you?
So you're playing with this mod actively?
That's
You can't
amazing.
really see it though because I've got the vest on, so I might just take it off.
Yeah, I think you need to for the
I'll
sake of
take
the
the
stream.
extra damage.
It'll be worth it.
Makes sense. God, it's so satisfying in this chunk of the game to have just a big squad of those freaks with their heads all popped and then just throw a flash grenade in there. It just, it's like, it's the magic of Resident Evil, just feeling every once in a while like, I beat your little system. You think I can't handle this, but oh no, this flash grenade is going to take out like 5 of these guys at once. It is so good. Being able to craft those things, like just keep them rolling.
Yeah, I feel bad using it against just one. I'm like, someone else, hey,
Yeah.
you back there, why don't you blow up your head?
Yeah, as soon as one of them pops, it's like, okay, I'm leaving you, and I'm going to see how many more there's going to be. Because if you hit like that threshold of 3, then all right, I'm popping a flash grenade.
Yeah. I felt like a real dingus in one of the big combat encounters where after all of it, I then flipped a switch and it like dropped the chandelier. And it was like, oh, you wanted me to do that during the
Yeah,
fight.
I did that too.
I see. Okay. All right. This is the section then where Ada sneaks up on Leon and they have their little CQC fight. And then they talk for a little bit. And it's kind of like classic Ada, classic Leon. See ya. That's pretty much it.
In this section, that part stood out to me as like, Kyle, I know you said that you liked the voice actor for that in the previous episode because she kind of sounded more, real or whatnot. And this section was the one where I was like, does she sound more real or is this just bad voice acting? And like it was a small enough snippet in the first cutscene with her that I was like, okay, yeah, this is kind of an interesting.
Maybe
take,
I like it
but-
because it doesn't sound like typical voice actor voiceover. I don't know. I guess so. She was not the voice actor in the first in Resident Evil 2 remake,
Right.
But she did play Ada apparently in the recent Resident Evil movie that we have all collectively forgotten.
Wait, like a CG one?
No, like the live action one.
Welcome to Raccoon City?
Yeah, like apparently that actor played Ada Wong in that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, I watched that movie and if you put a gun to my head, I could not have told you that Ada was in it. It was just all such a blur.
I mean, but might have been like a post credits thing. I
Maybe
never
I'm sure
watched
she was in it.
though.
It's just all of it was just kind of like a So chat's saying easy, because there's the whole thing, and I've only seen glimpses of this, but Jeffem, you'd never guess it. Believe it or not, apparently there's a hate campaign, and the actor had to like shut down her Instagram page because everyone was attacking her so much for apparently doing a bad job in this game and some nonsense like
great.
that.
Of course. It's not anything. It's not terrible or anything.
Oh, look at you, 180. You were.
It's
It's
fine.
fucking
Nothing
real.
wrong with it.
deserves to be
Here.
harassed for.
Right, obviously,
Absolutely,
yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I still liked it, like before even seeing all this hate campaign stuff where I was listening to it, especially during this whole section. I was noticing too, Kyle, of like, yeah, is it just subdued? And I think that's kind of compelling in a
Unique.
weird
I don't
way.
know. I like it.
Yeah, and maybe it is, that's just code for detached. So maybe it's easy to put a Venn diagram on that of like, well, it's an actor who doesn't really care about the role, half-assing it or whatever, but like, I don't know, it feels
Detached
interesting.
is like one of the main words you would describe Ada with if you weren't talking about her appearance. I mean, like, what is her? She's detached from the story. She's detached from the tone. Like, she's like, who knows what's going on with her?
Yeah. And so Leon's like, who are you working for? And she had the great line where she says, oh, Leon, you know I don't work and tell. And that's just good writing, everybody. And then later on, you see Ada and she's on the phone with somebody. Jeff, when you remember that little conversation?
Vaguely.
She's like, the voice is like, bring me my amber. And then she's like, you got to keep your dog on the leash. That was basically it. Any guesses for who that is on the other end of the line?
No.
Bam,
Krauser.
bam, bam, bam. Nothing but Krauser all the time. Let's see. Pinguini says, the moment I saw the little scorpion monsters, I almost had a heart attack. I've learned to deal with my arachnophobia in games, but the way they crawl super fast towards you is too much for me. I screamed every time I encountered them. I can't express how glad I am that these horrible creatures were few and very easy to kill. Yeah, there weren't that many really. It was just kind of like this section where you see them like crawling on the heads to infect them, which was cool, but they kind of went away
speedy,
quickly.
though.
They are speedy. That is true. And is this the line where after you kill one of those, or maybe it's, I think the flies later where Leon's just like, ugh, monsters. Just like some weird line like that. I've had it up to here with these monsters. But you're running along the castle walls, the battlements, apparently as they're called. Did you know the word battlement, Jeffem?
I've heard of battlement.
Okay,
yes.
good. And there's that, I think he's new, the guy who just looks like an Uruk-hai from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
The El Gigante with like that giant suit of armor, and he's just like chucking stuff at you.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, he's
exactly.
cool. I like him.
He was cool, yeah, because it's like him throwing stuff at you, it makes you rush along the battlement a little bit more. Like, I just have to get to the next safe pocket, and then every time I fell for it, where I'd run to the safe pocket and be like, oh, and then of course they'd have 3 Sith lords hiding there in the robes, like, oh, god damn it.
They're just waiting for you to run in there. And
Yeah.
and then also you're running for your life, but also I'm going to stop and shoot the gate open to run the opposite way because there's going to be a treasure up there. And
Yep, yep.
I went so far for treasure while that guy was still his arms must have been getting tired at that point. Like 50 boulders at me.
Yeah, then this is the part again where you can get the cannon and then you can shoot it at him, and Leon again proving his bottomless pit of Spanish. He gets to say adios, you son of a bitch. It's pretty cool, man. No one does it like
I
Leon.
think that part was new. That entire like section with like the battlement and like the sun moon doors.
Is that right?
That was all new.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. Wow. Yeah, that was a big chunk. Ken H says over there on Patreon, one thing I always enjoy about the Resident Evil series is the trademark foreshadowing of gameplay sections. Whether it be bosses or sections of a level, they always like to give you a little peek as you approach. Oh, little peek. Period. Inhale. As you approach the save room with Ashley waiting for you, you walk across the pathway that sits above the maze area, and you know full well looking at the map that you'll have to go through it later on. That is fun. I mean, I guess they did it earlier with kind of the castle on the edge of the lake too, just seeing an area that looks unique, and it's like, okay, I know this is going to be a thing. Oh, Danny Yorkus, I'm sorry. They wrote in about our dear friend. Says, dang, no one wrote in about El Gigante throwing rocks at Leon on the battlements. Definitely my favorite thing that they've added so far. He looks awesome in his crude armor. Totally Lord of the Rings. He even has a white hand of Saruman look to the helmet. Look closely and his face is melted away. What the heck is Salazar doing to these poor things? I was disappointed about the devs removing the second El Gigante fight in the village, but this more than made up for it. I forgot about that completely.
Well, that was when you could skip, I think, right? Because you had
That was
two
the
pads.
Chainsaw Sisters that you were talking about, Sarah?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. Chapter 9. We're in it now, baby. Now we're in the hedge maze. Going back to all this funky stuff.
Fighting the dogs.
I did not like the hedge mage from the original, and then somehow they found out a way for me to like it less in this one.
Because
Good job, Capcom.
were there dogs in the original?
In the original, there were dogs, and you were just looking for like 3 pieces of a puzzle. They didn't have the weird flag mechanisms.
Oh,
for
okay.
whatever reason. Like, I think you were just grabbing pieces and placing them. But the dogs in the original would kind of just bust out of the bushes at you. And I think in this one, they kind of like set the dogs up a little bit better so you kind of knew when they were coming. Because you could
Right.
kind of see them in the cages and you'd have a chance to react sometimes. But in the original, they would literally like bust out of the bush right in front of you and maul your face off.
Oh, I thought this was so well done. How they would just like, the first time you see him, I think it just kind of like runs by. And it's just this feeling of like, oh my God. And then just hearing them and having them like claw when they're fenced in and just knowing like at some point those gates are going to open and they're going to be running around in here too with their
You can get a
3,000
grenade in
teeth.
there, though, which is nice.
Ooh, really?
I tried shooting them when they were in the gate, and that just kind of triggers the gate to open. And then Ashley was like, "What are you doing?" And Leon was like, "It's easier to just deal with them now." It was pretty funny.
Man, during this section, I think it was a little bit later even of like, I missed the point where I started getting heavy grenades. Because I had this weird thing of like, I was tossing grenades and tossing them left and right. Then I just had that moment of realizing like, wait, I know I have grenades in my inventory. I've seen them, but it says I have 0. I do not know what's going on here. It's like, oh, that's right. I got to equip and prioritize the heavy grenades here just to make it blow up even more. But I still love those things. It's still so fun.
Yeah, I used about I think 1 or 2 on the side quest where you can fight the gold suit of armor.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, for sure.
I was like, yep, throwing a heavy grenade right at your feet. Let's see how this goes.
So good. Shoji Kodo writes in and says, Chapter 9 was my favorite chapter so far, with the introduction of the courtyard maze and hearing the sounds of the dogs slowly stalking you nearby before they pop through a hedge to attack. The nail-biting, tense feeling, being on the edge of my seat while playing as an unarmed Ashley, trying my best to dodge and freeze hordes of Armadura in the library and mausoleum while trying to rescue Leon. I think both sections were elevated by the fantastic audio, foreshadowing what was to come. Top-notch stuff. And Spencer Smith, jumping back to the maze, says, I've been enjoying how much they nudged this game towards survival horror compared to the original. Changing it completely would not have satisfied certain Resident Evil 4 fans, and it is still very, action-oriented. But there have been some genuinely scary moments. The scariest so far being the hedge maze. Not knowing exactly where you're going, hearing the dogs running around without seeing them, the way they jump unexpectedly from the hedges. I found one of the cages and took my time trying to line up shots on one of the dogs, only to have them break through and be on me instantly. Aaron T., the courtyard maze with all the dogs running around in it was the most scared I've been in this game so far. Most of the game until this point felt tense but action heavy, but this section and the following areas felt like a 0 to 100 ramp in the spooky scary department. Julian E., the dogs in that damn maze were so annoying. I never felt so close to Leon as when he said, give me a break. P.S. for Kyle, the dogs constantly jumping out of the bushes reminded me of the community bit with the cat in the zombie episode. There's an insane cat down here. Do you understand that reference?
That's a very good bit in that episode, yeah.
Okay.
You know how cats in horror movies will like jump out? And
yeah.
Oh gosh. In that episode, there's one that jumps out like 4 times in a row, back to back to back.
That's good.
Beaten Down. You should check out that show.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Beaten Down Brian writes in and says, I was going through the hedge maze when a dog leapt over a fence, landing on Ashley and then raffle stomping her face. Ashley then stood up, dusted herself off, and delivered her best line in the game. What can I say? Dogs like me. She's every bit as broken as our boy Leon, and they're a perfect match. Yeah, you know what? I think that is true. I love that. It's just good Leon weirdness. After this hell maze section, then Leon has a line of dialogue where he says, now we can finally get out of this maze. It's just like, it feels like a ChatGPT bot is just like writing this dialogue for him at some point, but they got it. They know what we want. And then there's a point later on where there's a trap that goes off and Leon says, we're sandwiched all right, which is, I guess, a nice Resident Evil 1 reference for Jill Sandwich.
He wasn't even there, so he doesn't even know.
Jill told him about it. They know each other at this point, right?
I don't even know. That's a good
I assume they do, but I don't think I've seen them on camera together yet. Ken H. writes in and says, there's a journal entry explaining the previous heads of the Salazar family and the history of the castle. In it, there's a passage about a former Salazar that just really liked contraptions and decided to fill the castle with them. I always enjoy the nonsense explanations for why things like a police station or a castle have puzzles strewn about them. It's another Resident Evil landmark, or trademark, says Ken H.
I'm a fan. I think, too, where they said they set up puzzles because they knew zombies couldn't solve them, right? That was the idea.
Oh, smart. Okay, love it. Jason L. writes in and says, 15 years ago, when I was going through the hedge maze at 3 a.m., I felt a tremor. I wasn't sure if it was real or just tension, but it turns out there was a minor earthquake. Listening to Kyle in part 1 reminded me I used to play everything with inverted on, including Resident Evil 4. Has anyone else had any surprising recollections while playing this game? Resident Evil 4 is a time capsule that I wasn't expecting. I don't know, Kyle, do you flash back to your first time playing this game at all?
No, not really. I don't really have a lot of vivid memories from like what was happening outside of the game. Does that make sense? Like sometimes you'll have a memory playing a game and be like, oh yeah, but these people were there and this is what was so cool about it. But Resident Evil 4, I just really explicitly remember the game.
You're just really fully soaked in.
Yeah.
I remember I got a good laugh because dear best friend Ronnie back in 2005, he sold his GameCube like a month before this game came out. And I was like, I don't know, man, I think it might be good. And then it came out and like GameSpot gave it like a 9.6 and called it one of the greatest games ever, yada, yada, yada. And I just got to laugh like a maniac. Like, you sold it. You sold it just before Resident Evil 4 came out. And then I remember being, this is in the past, just to be clear, but I remember just being an obnoxious, really picky, weird person. Because I remember then going to college And like my roommates were really into games. You know, 3 of them, they were all really into games, and none of them had played Resident Evil 4. And I was like, oh my God, you guys, we need to play Resident Evil 4. This needs to be perfect. But they kept being like, it was like a Saturday afternoon. Like, all right, well, let's play it. I was like, no. Like, we need to play like late at night. The mood needs to be just right. And so they kept being like, can we play it now? And I'm like, no. The mood isn't right for Resident Evil 4. Everyone needs to be like
gatekeeping Resident Evil 4 like since 2005.
Absolutely. I'm sure there's situations where like we got back from a party late and everyone's drunk. Like, okay, time for Resident Evil 4. I'm like, no, you wouldn't be able to appreciate it. So obviously we can't start Resident Evil 4 now. And the end result then is we didn't play Resident Evil 4 together at all. Like throughout all freshman year. You see how it works? Have you learned a lesson, Jeff?
When the true way to play is with the Wiimote.
That's right. Sarah, what was your life like when you played Resident Evil 4 the first time?
It was 5 months ago. So
yeah,
go back 5 months ago.
Your hair was down to your ankles.
My hair was long. They were QuickTime events.
Oh, different era.
With Wiimote waggle mechanics. So that was, the knife was also Wiimote waggle. So you had to like stab with the Wiimote. So you'd be like frantically shooting, and then you would just start like knifing things with the Wiimote. That was pretty hard. Maybe that's why I think it's so easy now.
Yeah. Oh, that could be.
The best waggle is in Resident Evil 4 VR when you get on the back of the giant El Gigante or whatever you call it, and you have to slash at the parasite on its back.
Yeah.
And you're really getting into it, and you're really slashing your heart out, and then you just hit the hell out of your desk.
Oh, God. What do you make of the VR mode, Kyle? I certainly had the impression that it was just going to be like a little side thing, but it seems like now everyone's kind of running with the idea that they're just making the entire game playable in VR.
I mean, I imagine it's going to be functioning like Village's port, You think
it's going to be first person then?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, the same way 4 proper VR,
right.
I think is first person. I mean, I would like it to be third person. I actually like third person VR games. There aren't enough of them, I feel like. But
yeah.
I think it'll be first person. And I guess it'll be the full game. I like we talked about last time. It's the reason I bought it on PS5 instead of my precious Xboxes, so I can play it in VR in the future, in theory.
Isn't it weird that it's just going to be like Facebook funded one version of Resident Evil 4 in VR, and then PlayStation is, I don't know about funding, but it's going to be like a PlayStation exclusive for the new version of Resident Evil 4 in VR. Like, what a weird world.
Yeah. We'll see.
Kevin K writes in and says, in the dining room, I was sitting around and pressing the bell several times to see if anything would happen. And Ashley chimed in right as I stood up with, so is this how you do all of your missions? It had me laughing so hard I missed Leon's response. That is good.
That whole puzzle was so strange. Like, I was like, at first I thought it was like, I guess it's a weird thing to call it, but I thought it was a bit. Like, I thought it was just like, like in Resident Evil 4, you find a throne later in the game that you can sit in, and you get this like cutscene of Leon sitting.
Right.
And I was like, oh, this must be like that, but you and Ashley can just hit the bell. And I was like, just hitting the bell. And I was like, it took me way too long to recognize. I was like, oh, this is a puzzle. I need to figure out where to sit and tell her to sit somewhere. Yeah.
Right.
I was making her like run around all the chairs. I was like, sit, Ashley, and then she'd run, and then I'd run to another chair and be, over here. And so she just had to like ping pong around the entire room. But I was mostly surprised that like, I like how in the puzzle it's like Leon gets to sit in the king chair and he gets like bread and mead, and then you're like, where does Ashley get to sit? Nothing. You get nothing. The emptiest plate, the emptiest chair, all the way across the room. You sit there and ring your bell.
That's right. That's right.
Full Gene Wilder.
I like in this section too, where you're first walking through the hallway. I think it's even before you get to the dining room area, and there's all the, of course, like suits of armor. And like I like that they make Ashley have a little joke where she's like, "Oh, why'd you put this on for your body armor, Leon?" And he's like, it's a little old-fashioned for me, but there's another little charming moment between the two of them. And also, I think, smart foreshadowing of, hey, did you ever notice how many suits of armor there are around this castle? I wonder if that'll be a thing. And then the first one that comes alive, and then you kill it. And the blue lantern fire, yada, yada, yada. And then Leon says, go to hell, you rusty piece of shit. So that's pretty good gaming right there. This person also didn't leave their name, forgive me, but they say in Chapter 9, after you finish the Chimera statue and that golden cage falls on Leon, how the heck did those enemies get in there with them so fast during the cutscene? Am I missing something? The cage fell on him. The camera went to Ashley. Then when it pans back to Leon seconds later, there's baddies in there. Did anyone else notice that?
Well, they can show up behind you silently, as we established last time. So
yeah. I did go back and check that tape, and it is very confusing why there's enemies in the cage with Leon. It looks pretty clear, but you do get to see what
He looked like a badass.
Oh,
Chicken beating him up.
yeah. He's seen a couple John Wick movies, even though this exists before those movies came out. Steve Bellegarde writes in about exactly that, saying, in the scene where Leon gets trapped in the cage, he does some really sweet knife and gun fu. It really cemented the change to the character since we last saw him in Resident Evil 2. It also made me realize this is the game where we go from grounded survival horror to complete lunacy. This is a good level of lunacy. I mean, I'm all for games getting silly and Resident Evil 4 being a silly game overall, but like, yeah, just showing that him fighting, he can do some really sick moves in a cutscene, like that's an understandable.
Like a gilded cage that they built.
Right.
Just to trap him.
It's a metaphor, Sarah. Most things are. Don't you understand? It's rating. Jethrin writes in and says, the section where you play as Ashley is one of my favorite parts so far. The slow build of the tension amplified with the audio is top notch. It's definitely the scariest part of the game for me.
I love where you have to sort of go under, all the
like towards the end
suits of armor. That part was so cool. I really like that. A lot.
Absolutely. It's just waiting for one of them to collapse on you. And also it's a really smart way to like gate that so when you go back as Leon, he doesn't crawl underneath it. It's like, okay, that's really good. Maybe it's just, having an HDR TV and stuff, but I was struck just by like, there is such a wild drop off with her flashlight. Like it is pitch as hell black right in front of you. Like when you're going down the hallway and there's like the animal heads and of course one of them falls and yes, it totally got me. But like the flashlight's good for like 5 feet in front of you. And then it's as if you're looking into the darkness of space. You cannot see anything, but it works so well for scaring the hell out of you. Mugman Douglas writes in and says, as the game handed control to Ashley, I was dreading whatever was coming up next. But the Knights made a cool set piece and Ashley ended up impressing me as a character. I thought about how most people would react being in the situation, and I gotta say, Ashley handled it like a champ, all things considered. Yeah. She did all right.
That was another segment where she really grew on me as a character.
Yeah.
Just putting you in that character's shoes and then kind of having just the overall guise of you're gonna help Leon get out. Worked really well.
Yeah. I like the idea of giving her the keys, like having multiple keys just to get like that classic horror film thing of like having them sneak up behind you and you're like shuffling through to get the right keys. For me, it was like, it was the last one like twice in a row. And I'm like, this has to be random, right? Is it coincidence that it was the last one twice in a row?
It was the last one for you?
Yeah, I think so.
It was the second to last one.
Okay. Okay. So it was.
So they must just, but as soon as I got that keychain, it was like, oh God, I'm going to get stuck at some door while those frickin' armor suits are closing in on me. And it didn't disappoint.
Yeah, I think this part, they changed it a lot from the original, and I think it's a lot better than the original part where like originally you ran from the cultists and you kind of had to like juke them under tables and like light them on fire and then just like crank a bunch of gates open. And then there was the night part, but then it was a slide puzzle, so it kind of sucked. But after playing like Resident Evil 8 with like the creepy baby and then the DLC with the horrifying puppet, I didn't find this as scary.
Yeah.
Because the lantern would kind of take them out pretty easily. Like you kind of just had to look at it for a little bit. So it wasn't it definitely wasn't as scary as past Resident Evil games, but they were trying to give it that like the same feeling of like, what if you were in the dark and like something was looking for you?
Yeah.
The scariest part for me was trying to read a Roman numeral clock and like trying to remember what all the Roman numeral numbers were. That was and then setting the clock. That was the scariest part for me.
Final Fantasy 14 minus Final Fantasy 6.
16.
Yeah, that part made me laugh.
X is a 10, but then when the one's in front of it, it's not, and then behind it, it's different.
It made me laugh because it's like, all right, you look at the clock and there's clearly some puzzle part here. Then you find a note that just says 11:04.
11:04.
And then Ashley goes, maybe. It's like, okay, it's the most obvious puzzle in the world. Come on, Ashley. Then the part where...
It's her first puzzle.
That is true.
He had a whole game,
That's true.
When she's also like turning that crank in that room and there's the night coming up behind you and she literally is saying out loud, she goes, nice and slow. It's like, what are you doing, Ashley? Your life depends on this. Come on. Nate T says, during the Ashley section, I thought I could just go back for all of the chests as Leon later, so I ignored them. When I finished the section and realized that wasn't the case, I had to reload and do it all over again, but it's a really fun section though.
It was kind of weird that Ashley can't break pottery. I don't know if she just has like more respect for pottery than Leon, but I was like, break it, Ashley. Do it. Smash it. Throw it on the floor.
It's weird, but then they'd have to have a section of her being like, by the way, I picked up 14 pesetas. Here you go.
If you go to where she was kidnapped from, she drops all the stuff.
Yeah, I was about to say that happens.
Oh, okay. Well, that's already in there.
So I wish she would have just picked it up for me.
I was confused during that section because I started opening up the chest with the keys, and then I was like, wait, should I actually take the stuff out of it? Or is she going to be carrying it around the entire time? But yeah, she just drops a pile of treasures wherever they take her away. So
They shake her pockets out when they grab her. Ching, ching, ching. It all falls to the ground.
Patrick G writes in and says, I should not have played the Ashley section late at night. It was so tense and scary dodging the suits of armor. I also liked how Ashley asked for no more. Then they threw all of them at her and took her light. It was so satisfying going back as Leon with a gun just to unload on these guys. Cool assault rifle in the library to find, and a fun fight with the gold armor guy. The Magnum melts.
I got that assault rifle.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's nice. But Patrick says the Magnum melts. I don't have a Magnum yet. Do you all have a Magnum?
No.
Okay.
There's the broken butterfly that shoots Magnum bullets, I think, right?
Oh, and that's just a pistol that shoots Magnum bullets, but it's not a Magnum?
I could be totally wrong about that. Don't quote me on that.
It seems like that would just be a Magnum at that point then, right? Okay, I don't know. All right, that's fine.
I shouldn't have even said anything.
That's fine. No. Podcasts are for talking. People are saying Broken Butterfly is the Magnum. So
okay,
there we go.
Okay, so I was right. So now I've come across as very
You
smart.
are exactly right. That's right. Garrett Hullfish says, in the library, I was taken aback by how large the stuffed armadillo was compared to the raccoon. I always thought armadillos were smaller. I Googled it.
Point. It was huge.
I Googled it and learned that there are giant armadillos which can weigh between 42 and 73 pounds.
Damn.
I'll be damned.
They should put that in the game.
Factoids. Yeah, a commentary track, but it's just fun facts.
No, it's just a giant armadillo.
Oh, that makes more sense. That makes more sense, yeah. Gabe Wolf writes in and says, the night section blew me away, but one moment in particular highlighted how great the encounter design in this game was. When you're running away the first time through the library, you sprint to the elevator and just narrowly escape up to safety. Thinking you're past the danger, you save, get your bearings, and do the little clock puzzle, but slowly, you realize you have to venture back down into the darkness you just barely got through alive. It's such a cool moment because they really managed to make you feel the same way that Ashley does in that moment. Hell yeah. I mean, I would love a GDC talk from Resident Evil level designers. I feel like it is such just a tight game for just pure old-fashioned level design. I want to know what these folks know. Brandon S. says, if you peek through the gaps in the Undead Knights' armor, you can actually see red vein-like muscles all throughout the armor. Cool unnecessary details. Good job, Capcom. Good job, Capcom.
Good job, Capcom.
Now we're getting to the important thing. DKMY writes in and says, Nighty Night Night? Really? That's the best you can do, Leon? And then Wawa says, they let Leon say Nighty Night Nights, but took out no thanks, bro? If they're going with Goofy, they should let him be Goofy. I guess, yeah, we're just supposed to believe that, yeah, Nighty Night Nights is just a better line overall than no thanks, bro, I guess.
Yeah, is that a good line in Japanese, Sarah, if you translate that?
I don't even know how to reverse translate that.
Does not make sense. Let's see, Jeff from DKMY is asking if you have any better night wordplay that Leon could have said during this section.
No.
Come on, man.
Nighty Night Nights is peak.
Yeah, but Jeff, if you had to, we'll wait. We'll get comfortable and wait, man. It's fine.
What if you said Good Night Moon?
That'd be funny. That'd be funny.
And then pulled his pants down?
Yeah!
What version?
Sam L.
That's how you moon someone.
That's right.
Kyle,
it's a hot mod. Sam L. writes in and says, is Capcom trying to be hip? When you catch Ashley as she drops down in the armory, she says skills, but with a Z. But you'll only notice it if you have the subtitles on. Why did they do this? Why did I have to share this?
I saw that
know.
and I wrote it in my notes.
I didn't even see that.
I guess
she's an aughts kid, right? It's the 2000s. That was cool back then.
Yeah.
We were into it.
it's a naughty odds. By the way, I know I just keep coming back to environment art for this entire section, but like every painting in the castle, I need to go up and look at. Like seeing the light and just you can see like the brushes of the paint, kind of the thickness of it on there. Every painting in this game looks so damn good. It's really what the RE engine does best. Okay, this is the shot then where Ada, chapter 10 opens with Ada talking to mystery voice on the phone, all that fun stuff. Then you get to be Leon, go in, fight those knights, and he gets to say, okay, time to get medieval on your asses, because, Leon's a big Pulp Fiction fan, I guess. The Merciless Knight. You did that, right, Kyle? Big gold guy?
Yeah. The big grenades under his feet.
Yeah,
that was a bunch of those.
That was another one of those where it was fun. I'm glad I did it. It was fun to go back and just mop up there. But it was 8 spindles is all I'm getting for that. Was it worth it for 8 spindles? I'm getting to the point where I feel like I've bought everything I kind of want from the trading section of the store. I don't know what else is in there that is worth it.
All the stuff that I'm skipping are the stocks and the laser sights and stuff like that. I do kind of want some of those, but yeah, I don't think I can put the laser sight on the handgun that I'm using because I think it only fits on 2 of the handguns.
Right. Yeah, is anybody else dying to save up for
I bought a
there?
yellow herb I really felt judged by the merchant on that one.
Oh, what did he say?
I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was I guess you can buy that if you want or something. Something pretty judge. It's come on, man, you're making a sale here.
Have you tried a higher difficulty?
Things are 3 spindles, 8 spindles, or 30 spindles. So it's you really just have to invest in something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I bought a gem before when I was a gem short. I had to buy gunpowder when I lost all my bullets.
Well, a lot of that stuff is single inventory, right? When you use it, it's not you can just keep throwing spindles at yellow herbs. You just buy it once and then you're done. So I actually buy, except for the coins. You can buy multiple coins, it seems. But I bought a lot of that stuff. Might as well.
Everyone's screaming on Twitch, and somebody did write in about this, and they didn't include their name, so forgive me for this. So Anonymous wrote in saying, did any of you buy the exclusive upgrade ticket? It is so clutch. I bought it and used it on the Blacktail, which gives it 1.5 more power, making it more powerful than my sniper rifle now. I haven't got that, so I'm talking out of my butt. Is that what it is? Okay.
It's expensive.
I bought it and then I used it on the Red 9 and then I didn't know if that was a good idea because I probably could have just gotten the last upgrades I had for the Red 9, but I wanted the 1.5 times damage increase on it. So.
Yeah. So I guess that's the carrot at the end of the stick. You might all laugh at me. I read this with my dumb brain, keep in mind, but I read this 10 times and I don't understand what this means. So one of the little charms that I got for attaching to the attaché case from the shooting gallery, it just says plus 20% shotgun shells craft bonus frequency. What does that mean?
So 20% of the time when you craft shotgun shells, you'll make extra shells.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I should have just called you over the weekend to get you to unpack that for me as I'm staring at it like a riddle. All right.
I gotta solve this Resident Evil puzzle.
I don't understand what you're trying to communicate to me.
They didn't highlight the relevant words in green. I don't know what to do with this.
Vic Boss wrote in on Patreon. They say, one interesting thing about the merchant, I don't know if any of you noticed this detail, but Leon is the only one that acknowledges the merchant. In the original game, during nighttime, his eyes glowed red, similar to the other infected villager. I just think it's cool. There are so many details in the game, but they kept in that Leon is the only one that acknowledges the merchant. Even though the shooting gallery allows Luis and Ashley in it, it still doesn't prove that they can physically see the merchant. And with how talkative both of them are, it's weird that they don't talk to the merchant. I like that it's open to interpretation.
I didn't notice that.
So
That's
like
cool.
Fight Club situation.
It's also weird that he's showing up in a cave that you have to crawl through down in that bug hole, and it's no matter where you're going, man, he's ready.
There.
Yeah, and there's never a moment from Leon of just being chummy with him, like, how'd you get down here, man? Or just anything. It's just a one-way
He's
street.
your number one supporter.
I know, he's great.
He's always so happy for you.
Yeah. Will writes in and says, I just wanted to gush about the shooting range a bit, because I feel like we didn't give it enough love the first time around. The production value for it is bonkers, and I absolutely adored Ashley and Luis hyping me up or talking crap when I shot a sailor, and the charms being the bottle cap figures he won in the original shooting range is amazing. Also, the music that plays during the bonus round is a remixed version of the song that plays on the radio in the opening of the original game. And I think that's neat. So many fun touches in this game that really makes me feel appreciated as someone who knows the original inside and out. Hell yeah, Will.
Fun. I didn't know that.
Lenya writes in and says, is anyone else completely let down by the music in most recent Resident Evil games? I get what they're going for, but honestly, I barely hear anything. The save room music is a rendition of Resident Evil 2 Remake save theme, and it's cool, but I get to hear it for like 2 seconds while saving. Something is definitely lost here. Also, I might be wrong, but the boss fight with Krause had a similar music to the fight with Super Tyrant in Leon scenarios for Resident Evil 2 Remake. I really like this game, but the lack of memorable and new tracks keeps it below the love and admiration I reserve for the game from the 2000s.
It's funny, when it comes to Resident Evil, the only, and this could just, maybe I'm not listening close enough, but the only tracks that ever stand out to me are the save room music.
Right.
Like, nothing else really ever stands out to me.
There's, on the battlements, that's what they were called, Jeff? When you're running along those, in like those tense sections, there was like just the classic horror like string, like that kept like doing like a little up pitch thing. I think that's the only time the music stood out to me throughout this entire chunk, other than save room music.
I did notice sometimes the music will like kick into being like really dramatic and really scary when like nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Like I'll just be in an empty room and they'll like kick up the horror music and I'm like, what? Is something gonna happen? Then nothing happens. And I'm like, that was really dramatic for no reason.
That's weird.
I did like the minecart music, I think, if I remember correctly.
You're thinking of Donkey Kong, man.
Yeah, which I did. I went through the trouble of like making a clip where I recorded, I turned the music volume down in the game and played that section again and recorded the footage and then put the Donkey Kong country music on top.
Perfect.
It was,
all right.
It's fun.
You're on top of it, man. You're doing it.
But I did like the music that was already there as well.
Okay.
I guess to the writer's point, nothing really stands out for me. If you said hum a Resident Evil 4 song and my life depended on it, I would just lay down and die.
That's my save room music. I think that's the best I can do.
Yeah, but the solid state drive does make saving go very fast, so you don't really get to hear.
That's the problem. That's the problem. Nikki B writes in and says, the beginning of this chapter felt like, this is for reference, chapter 10, felt like quintessential Resident Evil to me. I basically had no ammo, so the first 15 minutes was me studying the map, running/sneaking for my life to get all the pots and cube blocks that I saw while playing as Ashley, and then sprinting back to the typewriter to make sure I didn't lose any progress. It ended up with a great close quarters fight against the strong knight for the side quest. Top-notch stuff, says Nikki B. Yeah, it is nice just to, when you have those moments playing the game, you're like, oh, this is it. This is the Resident Evil groove that we're all enjoying. Dean Bowling says, I've enjoyed the combat during this chunk of the game more so than the first. Definitely a higher ratio of tight proximity Resident Evil 2 remake style encounters, but boy, this just goes full Resident Evil 6 with the bugs in the ballroom. There's really no tension fighting them. They're just big doofuses.
Yeah, they're not very fun.
They're just, I was thinking about it too. It's like, that's a good point. Like what could they have done to make the bugs more interesting to fight? Because it is just like, hey, you have a couple shots at them. They don't really dodge you too much, and then they explode on the ground. Then I guess it is kind of fun when they're camouflaged. That's a fun thing when I have stumbled upon them a couple times.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they just want you to aim up, right? That's what's unique about them is like maybe you're aiming toward the sky, but
right.
Yeah, they're not a huge threat. So
in that first ballroom area where you first encounter them, are they infinite there, or can you take out the nest?
I hit a point where I wasn't fighting them anymore.
Yeah,
it took a long time.
Think they're infinite?
Okay. I think at a certain point I was just like, I'm just gonna run for it, and did okay.
Also, they got rid of the part where Ashley gets kidnapped by one of them.
Oh, a bug takes her?
You walk into the ballroom and you're like, whoa, look at that nasty nest. That's disgusting. And then a bug comes in and goes, "Rrr," and then it picks up Ashley and goes out the window, and she's like, Leon, help!
Sarah, can you tell me everything that happens in Resident Evil 4? Because it sounds great.
It's just like, I don't know. I really liked her. In this one, she just gets picked up from behind. Like, she goes through all that work. She solves all those puzzles. She releases Leon. And then the guy just, like, picks her up and walks off. I don't know. They've really scaled down the dramatics of Ashley getting kidnapped.
Right.
And not for the better, in my opinion.
Interesting. Luke Tucker writes in and says, I believe Sarah spoke on this in part 1 of the Deepest Dive, but the sections that exist to seemingly just drain your resources can be a bit grating. Spending every pistol bullet and shotgun shell I had on the damn bugs in the ballroom before reaching the double Garador section was a huge, oh, come on moment for me. It's more manageable on subsequent playthroughs when you know what's ahead, but still a minor nitpick for me. The game is amazing overall, though, says Luke Tucker. Yeah, I think you just got to realize what's going on, of like what the state they're trying to get you into.
When you start feeling good and when you start picking up a lot of bullets, you know they're about to pinch you and make you feel sad.
Oh, big time. Shango Congo says, can you imagine running out of ammo while fighting the bugs in the ballroom? This post was made by the Bolt Thrower Gang. Bolt Boys rise up! Hell yeah.
But I didn't run out of ammo, so I can't
but can you imagine if you did? I mean, I know Jeffem has like a attaché case the size of a semi-truck and it's filled with ammo, but for the rest of you suckers, I know you're all running out of ammo all the time. And then Spencer Bertine gets to it, talking about the double Garador fight. And this was... When I got to this, I was so worried because like when I think of my time playing Resident Evil 4 back in 2005, it's like this is definitely, I think this is the hardest sequence that I remember. Like it was so brutal doing that again and again and again. And so I was so happy jumping in this time, being a proud member of the Bolt Boys Society, going pure stealth, like not firing a shot, not alerting them at any moment. Like,
wait, does it not make any sound?
No, the bolt's completely silent. And so you just like, I think I eventually fired enough bolts that were near them along the door that I went to go pick it up. And if you get close to them, then the two freaks come out and start attacking you. But, well, not even attacking me because they couldn't find me. They never had any idea where I was. So I just sat there the entire time shooting them quietly. And then they would stumble somewhere else and I run over, pick up the bolts, shoot them quietly. So like I never rang the bells once. It was just like a quiet operation, like Metal Gear.
Baby
it was
gun,
beautiful.
Gun for babies.
If babies are smarter than you, then yes, Sarah. Was it stressful if you were playing it the loud way?
I ran around in a circle, sprinting.
Yeah.
Slapping bells, but I made it.
Okay. Did it feel tougher than the original?
No, because like once again in the original, you had to stop to shoot, and it was really hard to navigate and aim and like turn around in the original. And in this one, you were pretty, you can move pretty swiftly. I got them to start hitting each other at one point.
Yeah, that's fun.
Which was pretty sick, and then the bells don't break as quickly. In the original, they would go down pretty fast. I think there were more bells in this one too. I don't know. In the original, I only remember 2 bells, and in this one, there's like more than 4.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
4,
really?
yeah.
I thought there were only 3. I must have just missed.
Maybe there is 3, but I remember there only being 2 in the original, and them breaking pretty quickly.
Okay.
The thing that I ran into is like I did pretty well. Like I didn't really lose a lot of health. I was doing a lot of running around and using my big loud guns on the fodder, and it was fine. I could get away from everybody. But then I ended up like I ran out of bells. I didn't have any bells. Everyone was dead except for one of them, and it wasn't even like that challenging. It was just that it took me longer than I felt like it should have to get behind them to get a clear shot.
Yeah.
Which wasn't like, it wasn't challenging, but I was like, come on, man, just turn around. I can't ring any bells anymore.
Leon's annoyed. Come on, man. We're running out of time.
And what's weird is that like, if they're so sensitive to sound, right? Because you're supposed to use like the flashbangs to like upset them. Why aren't they upset when they hear my gun go off? Wouldn't that be really loud? Wouldn't that hurt their tender ears?
It does. Yeah. They do freak out about that.
Yeah, but then they run at you.
Right.
The flash grenades, I didn't use flash grenades on them. That just makes them, makes them pause, I guess, or?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I don't get, because at first I was like, they can't see. Why would the flash grenade work? And everyone's like, they're loud. And I'm like, my guns are loud too.
Yeah. Jeffem, what do you think of this whole sequence?
Yeah, I didn't realize the entire bell thing until after I was up and mopping up all of the ammo. I was like, oh,
because
there was a smart
you
way
masterfully made it through the first time when they didn't put a bell there for you with the jingle jangles.
That is true. Yeah, I just burned through a ton of shotgun ammo and heavy grenades at that point and just moved on.
Quietly, somberly moved on. Perfect.
I mean, it was a tough.
Okay.
It was a tough fight.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah. But I didn't mourn the amount of ammo that I wasted. I guess a little. I saw the bells and I was like, oh, that probably would have been.
That's a thing. That's a whole thing.
Cooler way to deal with it.
I like. In the original, aren't they identical? I like that they each kind of had their own personality this time around. Am I remembering this correctly?
Identical.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, like,
that's
the
nice.
sound that they made in the original is burned into my brain. They don't really make it this time around of like that, like that sound over and over again. But this time they got a
No,
whole range.
that was the donkey from Shrek.
I'm sorry, I was thinking of Donkey.
Yeah, your memories are.
Is, early 2000s. It's a freaking blur, man. Spencer Botine writes in and says, I've been trying to pin down exactly why the combat in this game is so damn fun, and the fight with dual Gyarados gave me my answer. It's always pure chaos. I enter every enemy encounter with zero strategy and simply react to whatever is happening at the exact moment. This particular battle exemplifies my take perfectly. The two, by the way, is there many Gyarados? I wish I'd...
Gyarados.
Yeah, 2 Gyaradoses swing blindly at everything in their way, and the entire encounter was an absolute madhouse of bells, bodies, and blades. After the fray subdued, I had no idea how I had arrived at victory, only that I was alive and everyone else was dead. There you go, Spencer. Hell yeah.
That's good. That's good writing right there.
Yeah,
Some
absolutely.
of that in Resident Evil 4.
Also, great mansion. Elliot writes in and says, heading into the Gyarados fight, I had the assault rifle from the library, ended up killing each within 9 bullets of the AR, less than 10 seconds shooting at them. The first Gyarados fight took me 6 minutes running around, running out of ammo, using every grenade, and felt like a perfect Resident Evil boss. This fight didn't feel balanced for the weapon. It was over within 60 seconds. Jesus. Krause the guy says, playing through this chapter was absolutely no joke on professional mode. Dealing with the 2 Gyarados and the Verdugo later on with very little ammo and healing items makes every single moment so much more stressful, but I'm loving every second of it. I cannot wait to play it again on Jeffa mode and steez on all these clowns with my red 9 and wits. There you go, straight up Jeffa mode. So then you get to see Ashley chug her black Gatorade and it doesn't go well. But what's going on with this infection? This is the slowest moving infection of all time. Like, did all these people get infected over the course of, well, I guess, how long has it been?
I think
Days?
they did, actually. I believe so. I don't think it was like a slow thing that slowly took over the village, I think.
It's weird.
There was one notebook that you find of someone who got infected who was like a groundskeeper or something. And it was days in the transformation that took for him. So,
do you all like it when, they're screaming, oh, Logos, Plogos, the guy in the red things and all the heads explode and all that stuff, when Leon's like kind of affected by it? I think that's a cool idea of like,
cool touch.
It's like, it's kind of getting to him a little bit.
Yeah, it's cool. It's good.
It is good. Sarah, is that good?
I mean, it's kind of annoying how your screen starts to shake spontaneously, and then
is
you're like,
true.
I gotta deal with this.
Right.
It's okay. I don't think it was as effective because I think you're supposed to realize that like that guy is like controlling the thing in your body,
Right.
and like semi-awakening it. But
Yeah.
I was like, is there an earthquake? Like, I think it would have made sense if like
it's a little
Leon just kind of
confusing.
fell to the ground, but they just take your entire screen and shake it, and you're in the middle of a fight as well too.
Right.
So I didn't really notice it because I was, I had 4 bullets and a prayer.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Could be more effective.
Sure. Are you still having fun streaming this thing?
I do like the Resident Evil 4 remake.
Do a lot of people give you like tips? Or a lot of people like, oh, you gotta do this. Don't forget to get this item. Does it feel kind of like playing with the walkthrough type of thing?
I mean, it doesn't. Since I've already played the original, it was really useful to get those kind of tips and hints and tips and stuff.
Right.
So that was really nice. I don't need it so much in this one. Although, I don't. Some stuff I like to ask questions about, but most of the time, usually it's just like, did this happen?
Right.
Is this new? Most of my questions are, is this new?
But you have that Twitch for immediate like feedback on that. It's gonna be nice. How did your chat do when there was more Leon chain stuff when they threw him down the pit and then he was kind of riding that chain down?
And then he grabbed the chain.
He grabbed the chain.
And then he was like, that guy really stuck the landing.
Oh boy. Good stuff. Anonymous writes in, they say, who else thought Leon would do a backflip off the chain and when he was dropped down the spike hole? We're all hoping for a backflip off the chain. It sounds like an absurd concept, but he just kind of does a weird front jump, I guess you'd call that. It's fine. It's fine what he ends up doing. And then you're in the dark, creepy underbelly of this whole damn thing. Yarrow writes in and says, as someone who played Dead Space before this game, the inspiration that team took from Resident Evil 4 was no more apparent than the fight against the Verdugo at the end of this chapter. From running away and sneaking behind you through vents and using environmental hazards to your advantage, the same emotions I had playing Dead Space washed over me again. What a fantastic game. Yeah, I had that exact thought of like, why does this feel so familiar? Like hitting the freeze stuff coming down from the ceiling at just the right moment. It's like, oh, that's right. That boss fight in Dead Space where like the big guy has to be directly in front of like the blast that you shoot at him and whatnot. But man.
So I thought the Verdugo fight would be a big talking point because for me, it was like, are you even supposed to beat this thing? And like did you guys beat it?
You don't have to, so I didn't.
Yeah, I
see,
did.
I wasn't sure, and I hit a point because like I died once or twice, and I hit a point where I was like, I even got into the elevator once and reloaded my save because I was like, I really wanted to see if you could.
Really?
So I took the time and like unloaded tons of ammo into it, and I did kill it, but it was like, it was excessive. Yeah.
Do you get anything cool?
You get a really good
You get pocket watch.
Well, I got something, some unique item that I had never seen before that I could sell for a ton of money.
Was it a pocket watch?
No, it wasn't a pocket watch. I don't remember exactly what it was because I sold it just like immediately.
Huh.
Well, there you go.
And there's like an achievement.
Oh, it's a monocle.
Oh,
I think that's
okay.
what yes, a monocle.
What a weird thing for
but
me.
Because he was like the assistant to.
There's all those
Salazar,
notes about
Lord Sadler.
yeah.
But it was like I hit every ice thing, and I was like really backed into a corner, and I was just like, I'm throwing everything at you, and then eventually he died, and I even considered, I was like, should I do another run where I do make it to the elevator so I don't have to waste all this ammo? But I was like, no, I like that I beat it, so I'm just gonna move forward.
Yeah,
it goes and
smart.
Fine.
I did the poor option, I guess, of like unloading a ton of ammo into him, but then still getting on the elevator and getting the hell out of there. But man, I forgot about this section completely. I forgot that it's just like, oh yeah, there's just a whole alien section.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense.
It's so weird.
It feels so out of place. It's literally just alien.
Right. Even like the sound that the elevator makes as it's coming down when they have a close-up of it, it's like beep, beep, beep. It's just like the tracker scene from Aliens. It's just unbelievable how much they wanted to squeeze that love in there. But
why not?
Why the hell not? That's the motto for Resident Evil 4 is why not? Alex K writes in and says, Ramon's assassin in the lab felt a lot creepier to me in the Wii version as a kid. This time around, I just ran around in a loop and evaded him until time ran out. I think if I had to kill him, it would have felt a lot scarier and more intense. Other parts of the game have really spooked me. I was just surprised that one of the parts that I was anticipating actually wasn't that bad. Maybe I just remembered it being so much worse because I was a kid back in the day. Yeah, you're probably just a dumb kid. Diza Butts writes in and says, in the original Resident Evil 4, there are large canisters of liquid nitrogen you can tip over and shoot to freeze Verdugo while waiting in the elevator. Waiting for the elevator. That's a sensible way of transporting liquid nitrogen. It's understandable that some can be laying around. In the remake, there are 4 emergency liquid nitrogen showers in one hallway. Who did that and why? Under what normal circumstances does someone need an emergency liquid nitrogen bath?
I hit myself more with those showers than I think I hit the enemy.
Yep.
I just gave up. I was like, okay, we're just going to run in a circle because I'm taking too much damage from this.
Well, also it's just everything of like, is this just to slow him down? I was waiting for that moment of like hitting him and it looked like it was doing more damage or something. It was like you can melee him, but is meleeing him more effective than just shooting him with the red 9? It's tough to get a sense of like what the point of that ultimately was. Not the best.
They should make it more obvious that you don't have to kill. I guess the elevator, showing you the elevator being set kind of shows that you're not supposed to kill him.
Right.
But it could be confusing. But they have made the loop better. I think in the original, it wasn't as easy to just run in a circle. Like at one point, it was like more corridor with like rooms that you could loop in as like offshoots.
Okay.
And this was more of like a loop over here, run past the elevator, loop over here, run past over here, and just hope that you get to the elevator in time.
Right.
There's a lot of running into elevators and smashing the button coming up with Ashley's chapter.
Yes.
So I was like, we're really just doing this again. Like I am once again sprinting into an elevator, hoping it closes fast enough.
Right. It's again a lot of Dead Space in there too, but I understand Dead Space was inspired by this.
At least one time, I'd like them to like let the enemy in.
Yeah.
You know, like let them actually claw their way in with me.
Let Leon hold the door like a gentleman.
Yeah, like give me a little spook.
Have you played Half-Life Alyx?
I haven't.
You should play Half-Life Alyx.
Is it a lot of elevator stuff?
There's a really great elevator scene with a monster named Jeff.
Oh, that's right. So there's a cutscene at the end here where you get to see Sadler, and he's like, "Oh, now she's of our flesh, of our blood." Blah blah blah. It's like it's just kind of a lot of Sadler doing just like weird dances as Leon's having these
like
visions.
a hallucination of him once again.
Right. And so I'm trying to remember, in the original, you have seen him by now, right? And are they just trying to make up for that by giving Leon more visions?
In the original. Like, I thought that he also had your number at one point.
I think you're right.
Okay.
And he would call you up just to taunt you as well.
Right. But I do like that at the end of this kind of vision sequence, there's like a knife that turns around. You get to see like Krause and the knife a little bit. So like foreshadowing him a little bit. And yes, people watching and listening, we're going to get to Krause. I know you're on the edge of your seat screaming for that, but we're getting there. But you run into Luis again, and he's like, hey, I've got this depressant. It'll buy you a little time, buddy. Here you go. What does he call Leon again? He has some nickname for him. Sanchez? He has some just kind of like ambiguous name. Sancho,
he
yes.
had like an extended Pancho Villa metaphor that he was working on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly
which
it.
calls back to that note that you found earlier in the game about the kid who was obsessed with that book, with that story.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
The whole family history and all that fun
Why
stuff.
can't I think of the name? What's the story? What's the book? Why can't I think of
Is
the...
it Don Quixote?
Don Quixote.
reference?
Don
Yeah.
Quixote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now you're in the underground mines running around with Luis. Like, it makes you fall so much more in love with Luis that he's like so damn helpful during this entire section. He's like shooting enemies and tossing you ammo. It's just kind of like an
He
extension.
really puts Ashley to shame.
Oh,
honestly.
yeah.
Like they give you Luis, and you're like, where have you been my whole life? Where have you been, my friend?
You should just put like a blonde wig on him and be like, here you go, President. Here's Baby Eagle.
This
All
Baby
back. And don't ask questions. Yeah, also, it's just nice in this section, like having the villagers down there in the mines. It's like, oh, my old buddies. Chainsaw Guy, you're here too. Oh, Weird Beard Man. It's nice to see you friends again. Except now y'all have...
6 hours.
Throwback.
Right. You all got TNT and you're ready to throw it at me. But that I do love that section. It's just like having TNT going off everywhere. And there were like a couple moments. There was one in particular that I really loved where Chainsaw Man was coming up and I was about to die. I was just completely screwed. I was like reloading. And then Luis must have like shot a TNT guy next to me and the explosion went off and both me and the Chainsaw Man went flying. It was like, oh, just the perfect level of chaos in that little weird room there. And they try to explain it like, oh, the mines are very important because that's where they found the amber that the parasite was lodged in, which I forgot that there was like a not Resident Evil, but like a Jurassic Park connection here of like, oh, of course, it all comes from the amber, of course. It all makes total sense. Let's see. Krispy Kreme Lemur writes in and they say, I usually don't like the quote, now you have to fight too many bosses style of boss fight, but I really enjoyed the troll and the armored troll encounter for the Gigantes. From scurrying in between their legs to avoid attacks to worrying about ammo conservation when targeting the frantically swinging dynamite bundle on the troll's back, it was a highlight of the section for me. I was a bit disappointed that I wasn't able to dump either of the trolls in the lava with the trapdoor. Was anyone else able to barbecue one of these trolls?
Oh, that's how I did both of them.
Yeah, I did the second
I dumped one of them.
Yeah, the second one, I got that
I
way.
thought you had to for the second one.
I thought so too, but maybe if you shoot him enough and the TNT goes off or something. But
no, I wanted to get both of them in there. That was like, one of those things. It's like, I don't know, I don't really have to do it this way, but this is how I want to do it.
Right. It is so funny.
I
that,
got so nervous when Luis disappeared because I thought that I had accidentally killed him because I was just letting him be absolutely wailed on by his guy. I was like,
right.
You're on your own. Like, and I thought that like I had accidentally like led to his death or something because he was just taking hits left and right, and then he came back, and I was like, my savior.
We love you.
Because in the original, you had to like zip line. You could only really dump one, and then you had to like zip line between the two to kite them, and it was miserable. It felt so good to have someone there with me.
Totally.
Because like all along, like Leon's experiencing all these horrible boss battles, and just to have someone there like witness these horrible things that keep happening to Leon felt really good. Like, do you see this? Do you see this happening? Can you believe my luck? I'm a government employee.
I do love
This is what I have to do.
I love the little bit too where Luis is like, when you're fighting in that first area, Luis has a line where he's like, careful for the chainsaw guys, they're no joke. And Leon's like, yeah, trust me, I know, I got it. Like, I love just that little back and forth of like acknowledging, like, okay, we know how to deal with these guys. And the implication that Luis has also been battling these villagers for years, who knows how long now. But yeah, I thought it was so funny that like they were both so clearly on target, distracted by Luis, and be like, all right, then I'd run over for the lever and they would just like scurry away. Like they're just watching me every time. It's such a cheeky little animation. But yeah, I love that section. Then I eventually got the second one.
Did you guys die to the TNT when you were clearing the path?
No.
Remember when you put the
You
TNT in
can?
the hole and you blow it up?
No, then the rocks like roll down?
Yeah, you can die there. Ask me how I know. I went to set up the TNT and I was like, Luis, why are you standing over there? Like, he kind of is standing in the hallway. I'm like, why are you standing over there? And then I set the TNT and I was like, oh, wait, can I die to this? And then I ran out of the hallway thinking that I would die to the explosion, but then the rocks roll down and like Luis shouts and like he watched my body ragdoll underneath the rocks as they tumbled down over my corpse.
Those rocks, they rolled farther than I thought. Like, there's no fault on your end there,
He didn't
Sarah.
even try to grab me. He didn't even try to warn me either.
Come on, dude.
Well, he yelled at me for not warning him, actually, when the
Exactly. I was like, warn me.
Colton W submits a comment over on Patreon saying the minecart section was very fun in this version of the game. It was a nice twist to have Luis with you this time around to get even more fun banter. Come on, game developers, give us more minecart levels, you cowards, says Colton.
I wish I could have done it again. Like, the minute I finished it, I wanted to be like, okay, let's do it again.
Let's
go again.
And then you did do it again.
Yeah, there was kind of two phases to it. It just makes me laugh so much. It's so silly. Like the part where the cart comes next to you and it's a couple of villagers in it and they're riding in the cart with just a couple of red barrels. And it's like, oh boys, what are you doing over this? And then like when the chainsaw guys come, like this is your strategy. It's just like, we'll get in the cart and I'll kick off from the edge and I'll just start a chainsaw and hope someone gets close enough to me. It's just the worst idea. It's so cute.
Repeatedly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the fight in the lake earlier too, where it's like all spectacle, right?
Yep.
It's like you got unlimited ammo, go crazy, go for it, and it's fun, good time.
Well, there's
I like leaning too. I thought that was fun. It's like the cart's gonna tip over.
Luis had a lot of those lines, a little heavy on that. Maybe I was just
I was
bad
like,
on.
Luis, you could help. You could lean. Lean or shoot, Luis. Pick one.
No, he's got to break the brake. That's his job.
Right. Yep.
I love how he just gave up too. Like the brake broke off and he just sat down and he was like, guess we're gonna die. This is it.
Starkiller writes in and says, Leon uses the red 9 in the minecart section of the game, regardless of whether you obtained it earlier or not. The implication being Luis giving Leon his red 9 that has infinite ammo. He really is the best bro, says Starkiller. Cool. That's a good note. I like that.
Yeah,
idea.
I knew it wasn't
Did you
my
guys
gun.
take
'Cause I
Luis to
haven't
the
been
shooting gallery?
I never did, no. He was nice and supportive and...
I didn't take him, but I had to look it up, and he leans against the barrel very seductively.
It does seem good. Well, I don't know if you picked up this. He's kind of like
down there with me.
he's a rich,
He was
complex
excited about it. He
character,
had a good
Sarah.
time.
He's a rich, complex character, and it turns out he's a ladies' man. I don't know if you picked up on this subtle note
I
that
wish
they
he
keep
would stop
hitting.
saying that.
It's weird how
I
often
don't
he's
know.
saying it.
He kept saying he was a ladies' man, and I was like, the more you say that, the less it is actual factual.
Yeah, how many people on their deathbed are like, by the way, I had sex with women? Bah. It's like, all right, Luis, we got it, buddy. It's cool. Brian, what's that, Kyle?
I said, Leon said, proud of you.
Oh, okay. I thought you said maybe two. Brandon Milligan writes in and says, anyone else missed the first target to switch tracks on the minecart ride? After I shot the first boards blocking our path, I thought Luis was complimenting me saying, sweet strats, when he was actually telling me to switch tracks. Side note.
Yeah, I kind of wish they would bring the QuickTime events back because, like, when you mess them up, it sucks, but it is so funny to watch Leon die in these, like, horrendous ways. And since they kind of took that out, you don't really get, like, dumb murdered anymore. Like, the giant rock is gone from the village section.
Right,
Indiana Jones
right.
in the rock. Like, I don't know. I don't really like QuickTime events, but I do feel like sometimes it's fun to just put the player in a situation where they're just gonna die if they don't know that it's coming, you know?
Right. It is weird. Like, I went back to an interview he did with Hirabayashi, who's the producer for Resident Evil 4, but this is back when he was doing Revelations 2. I think he was a producer on when we interviewed him back then. But during that interview, we talked about his experience on Resident Evil 4, and he was actually the guy who implemented the QuickTime events. Like, he was the one who championed QuickTime events in the original Resident Evil 4. So it's interesting now, kind of this lower level designer is leading up the production on all of Resident Evil 4 Remake, and a big note that he has is like, let's get rid of those QuickTime events like my pride and joy from back in the day. No go. Brandon Milligan says, side note, despite how jokey Leon tends to be, he has a really thin skin when it comes to Luis. Who are you calling Sancho? He says. Also, one last thing, if you return to the throne room where you fall into the caves, you'll find a note referring to you three as Ramon's right hand. though in the original, the right hand was Verdugo, Ramon's bodyguard you fight in the sewers. Maybe the title of U3 was laid over Verdugo? Yeah, the whole U2 and like a lot of those notes I'm a little confused on. They were talking about what the U2 guy was like, oh, I named my new creature after me, but then Sadler wanted to call them the Unseen or something, and that's a hint of something coming up later, I do believe. But a lot of those details are like, wait, whose note is this? Who are these people? What exactly is going on? I'll leave it up for the experts to figure out. Kyle, minecart sequences.
Yeah.
Is it all just everybody really likes Temple of Doom? And so Donkey Kong Country, this, I guess The Rock. Would The Rock have that sequence if it wasn't for Temple of Doom? Like, how would any of these exist if not for Temple of Doom's minecart sequence?
Maybe. I mean, but even Temple of Doom was playing off of like the tropes of like serialized action.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if there was like a big set piece, old like serial 30s
I don't know.
piece of film with like a big like minecart set piece or something.
Yeah, was Rare like really into Temple of Doom when they were making Donkey Kong Country? I don't know.
Well, based on how much they ripped off John Williams' score for Spielberg's Hook for Donkey Kong Country 2, I'm going to say that they were very familiar with Spielberg's oeuvre. What's that word? Oeuvre? Oeuvre?
Oeuvre?
Oeuvre? Sarah, do you know this word? Oeuvre?
O-U-V-R.
It means
open in
embankment.
French? Oh, no, I don't know what then.
Embankment?
Yeah,
Battlement?
because you kept saying embankments.
Battlement.
Oh, were you saying? Forget.
We are on the same
This
page.
no-
Professional podcasting.
I was almost like really impressed. I was like, does it?
Yeah, damn, Jeffem. Ian T. Clark writes in and says, right after Leon and Luis make it out of the tunnels, Luis says, we're out of that hellhole. The fresh air is calling our names. The second he turned to face Leon and knew something bad was going to happen, everyone knows
When he turns around and goes like this, you know, it's like not going to be good.
And then Leon's so confused, like, what? Why are you coughing up blood? What's happening? Everyone knows you can't expose your back to a new unexplored area and not get immediately stabbed in the back, says Ian T. Clark. Yeah, come on. That's just living 101. Poor and Curly.
Yeah, so this is a big change.
Right.
It's a big change.
Right?
It's
Sadler
so much
killed him in the
better.
original, right?
Right.
In the original, you literally go to the castle, you meet Luis for the first time. He's like, I'm going to go in there and get like the medicine, the instructions, whatever, to get the parasites out of you. He comes out and he's like, you meet him after Ashley gets Wall kidnapped, I believe. And he comes out and he's like, I got it. Like, I did it. Like, I found the cure. I can do it. And then Sadler kills him in the back and then takes like the medicine and stuff. And that's it.
Okay.
That's the last of Luis.
But that's kind of the trade, I guess, because you get a little extra oomph for Sadler, but they're trading that off for, but now Krauser's more important because we're sliding him up a little bit here. So I
actually
guess
wondered. I had this like, I don't know. I don't know if I would call it hope, but I was like, I wonder if a big change they'll make is that Luis like survives.
That'd be
the whole
interesting.
game, you know,
that'd be tough to juggle him and Ashley. Like, I don't know exactly how that'd work, but it would
I'm
be
still
cool.
holding out on like a little hope that maybe he's not like dead. He's just like half bled out down there.
He dropped.
I mean, I think it's pretty easy, Ben, in that Luis just goes, I gotta go do something, trust me. And then he's just gone for like the rest of the game.
I guess that's true. He did drop his little umbrella lighter though, Sarah. So that's as clear as it can be.
And then he
that he's
couldn't
going
light his
dead.
last cigarette.
Oh, so sad.
So sad.
Aiden
I like
C.
when he asks Leon his like one of his parting words was like, do you think people can change? And it just made me laugh because of like Leon is so different than he is in Resident Evil 2. It's like, yeah, it turns out you definitely can.
Yeah, people wouldn't recognize me. Aiden C. loves the little umbrella logo on that lighter. It seems weird that he'd be carrying that around. Like, I know he's trying to atone for his sins or whatever from working at Umbrella, but you don't need
I
to
don't
carry
know. Free
that.
stuff is free stuff.
That's a good point.
Swag is swag.
That's right. MinnMax brand drawer, everybody. Will McCann writes in and says, didn't care that much when Luis got killed by Sadler in the 2005 version, but here it struck a chord with me. Having a budding romance with Leon over a comically nightmarish minecart ride, opening up about his troubled past with Los Illuminados, and just some plain old dialogue really made me care for the guy. And then for him to get killed right as he started to figure his life out, it hurts. After Luis takes his last smoke and passes on, Leon refers to him as Don Quixote, which immediately brought me back to those files from the village of a grandfather raising his departed daughter's son. One of the lines from the file was, whenever we walk in the forest, he always asks me to tell stories. He's very fond of Don Quixote. If he weren't stuck here, he might have become a scholar. Way to do us like that, Capcom. Yeah. Dumb question. Los Illuminados. What is that exactly?
That's the name of the baddies.
Oh, that's their
cult name.
So the Ganados are the species, and Los Illuminados is the name of the cult?
The pseudo-humans.
Okay, got it. Joe Dean writes in and says, everyone be quiet. Luis called Leon Prince Charming. This should be the romance of the game. This is the kind of content I'm here for. I enjoyed Leon and Luis's dialogue. I think they got genuine chemistry. But I definitely could have used a couple more moments like this. It really made Luis more fun than in the original and made me sadder when he was killed. Also, Sarah is right. Leon is a hottie.
Thank you.
There we go.
I will say, though, since I knew he died in the original, I just kind of spent this entire time, like, waiting for it. Like, I was waiting for them to spring it. I was like, okay, like, you're making me really care about this guy. I'm really enjoying his, presence and our goofy antics.
Right.
When will you rip him away from me?
Clay Carroll says, I love how they mix things around. So Luis is killed by Krauser, but also he's the one to shoot at Krauser before he kills Leon instead of it just being Ada in the rafters like the original.
That's what I couldn't figure. I thought it was Ada who, like, distracted Krauser, but, like, it didn't really make sense because they were kind of on the same team-ish.
Yeah. From Luis not being able to hold his lighter to him asking Leon if people can change before passing and the cigarette slowly falling from his lips, making Luis a bigger part really worked out well. I think so too. He was fun. Ben Shively says, bringing Krauser into the spotlight this early was a good idea. In the original, you don't interact with him until chapter 5-3, which the naming's confusing, which is a good way through the island. Him being the one to kill Luis is also much more impactful than when Sadler kills him unceremoniously in the castle hall. The fight felt extremely easy if you've been parrying throughout the game, which took away some of the tension that the QuickTime event had in 2005. Krauser's design/voice is the only letdown so far regarding character designs for me because his 2005 version felt more intimidating. I think that's right. I'm definitely more intimidated by him in that original version. And I remember this fight taking me a while, and it was just that the QuickTime events are a pain in the ass.
I died to the QuickTime events a lot because that opening slap fight is supposed to be like a series of QuickTime events.
Right.
And I actually had to, like, try it a few times to get to, like, the actual knife fight.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't been parrying at all in this game, and still this fight was like a 0 for me. It was like, yeah, okay, I guess I'm parrying, no big deal, bada bada ba, done.
Yeah. I have been parrying more. Like, after our first episode, I felt like, I need to try to be doing this more. But yeah, I mean, you just kind of block, or parry, and then just hit the right trigger a couple times. It was kind of, I don't know. I didn't dislike it. It was fine.
It was all right. I was bummed out, and maybe it's just weird lines that become iconic in your brain, but like, it's been a long time, comrade. Like, is it just because I lost so many times in that original fight that I know that line? It's baked into my soul? Because then when Krauser comes in this game and he goes, long time no see, rookie. Like, wait, what is this? Just have him say, been a long time, comrade, at that point. Like, what's the harm in having him say the same line? What do you think of this, Chunk Jeffem?
It was weird, and it was interesting to hear you guys say how little of a role Luis had in the original, because even here it felt like I've only interacted with him a little, and then all of a sudden he's dead, and I didn't know how big of a character he was in the original, and how important he was going to be in the story here. And then the answer to that question seemed to come really abruptly. Yeah. And I also like how he's like, oh, just get to my lab. And it's like, and do my own surgery that I know nothing about. Like, what is the solution now?
It's called surgery guessing. How hard can it be? And the Krauser fight, did that stand out for you at all?
It stood out as being extremely weird, and also me wondering who the hell Krauser is the entire time. So I'm glad to know that was also just a huge question mark in the original.
Well, yeah, that's a callback to the original, is not knowing who this guy is.
Yep.
Being completely dumbfounded by this character that telegraphed killing Luis so early, and then just knowing nothing. Okay, I guess we have no more Luis, but we have this weird Krauser guy now to deal with.
Brian Stanley writes and says, the cutscene of Leon and Krauser slapping at each other's hands with knives was wonderfully goofy. I think I heard whooshing sound effects from their fast hand movement. Was this fight scene directed by Mac from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Kyle, can you Google Operation Javier that they reference in there to see if that's in one of those CG movies?
Oh, like in the Resident Evil Wiki.
Yeah,
or
what is
something.
that?
Yeah, how do you spell it? H-A-V-I-E-R?
Yeah, Javier.
Javier.
Yep. Harrison Holt McHale says, I really love the interactions between Leon and Krauser. It reminds me of a more evil The Boss from Metal Gear Solid 3. But is that knife fight cutscene meant to look like two siblings having a slap fight? Or do I just not want to appreciate what a realistic knife fight looks like? You ever been in a knife fight? That's exactly what it looks like, Harrison Holt McHale.
Yeah.
And with the very clear explanation of, what does he say? He says, knives work faster. What? Sure, go ahead, flailing it around for a little while.
So I guess, just quickly, I guess there's like the on-rails shooter for Wii has a reference to Operation Javier, which came out well after Resident Evil 4. So.
Huh. Okay. That's it, though?
Yeah, I guess so.
I wonder if they make it DLC this time around.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's just supposed to be like just context for there was some mission that they went on together where something went wrong. And
Okay.
I don't think the details are that important. But maybe I'm not thinking it. Maybe I'm underthinking it.
That could be. Andrew P. writes, and it says, in the original game, after the knife fight with Krauser, he has one of the worst lines I've ever heard. They changed it for the remake, but I was hoping you could give us a dramatic reading for those who haven't played the original. Apparently in the original quote, is it? Let's see. It's probably Krauser that says this, where he says, quote, you may be able to prolong your life, but it's not like you can escape your inevitable death, is it? I guess maybe that's Leon talking to Krauser, and then that's it.
It doesn't sound like something Leon would say.
It's timeless stuff no matter what. Maybe, so it says Krauser talking to Leon because he took the suppressant, maybe? Because I do like that moment in the fight where Leon's like, are you controlled by these sickos? And Krauser would be like, no, I'm all me. This is me actually making these choices. I'm just a weird, stupid, evil guy, so don't worry about that. My brain is cool, though.
I'm just a stupid evil guy.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And then that's basically it. Luis dies, and then that's end of chapter 11 for this damn thing. A lot of questions about combat. Charles writes in and says, hey, does anyone use automatic weapons? I always think this is neat, then squeeze the trigger for 3 seconds until no longer have ammo. Am I doing something wrong?
Sounds like the writing of someone who would use automatic weapons.
Yeah, it does feel wasteful. Like I don't use that kind of stuff because, yeah.
Yeah.
You want to know where
Like
every
goes through your
bullet's going.
bullets too fast.
That's right. Cody J says, I remember you all had mixed feelings on the laser sight the last time. I forgot to equip the laser sight to a new handgun I bought and noticed that the crosshairs took a second to focus in. The laser sights focus as soon as you aim, allowing you to shoot a lot quicker. I'm all in on the Punisher handgun at this point. Headshot roundhouse kicks all day.
I do want the laser pointer. I got to see if it fits with my gun. I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to try it.
Brandon says, after unlocking the higher weapon upgrades, has anyone else switched weapons? I sold my Red 9 and went back to the starting pistol for nostalgia, but found it out it has the highest crit damage in the game with the exclusive upgrades. That does sound cool.
No, I haven't gone backwards.
Yeah, I think I'm locked into Red 9 at this
Forwards,
point, but
Yeah.
that would be fun. I was kind of disappointed. I thought that, like when you attach like the stock to the Red 9, it's weird that you don't actually have to physically attach it. Like,
Yeah.
it's convenient of them to make it so it can still be detached, but in the attaché case. But it's a little surprising, I think.
Yeah, same with the scope on the rifle.
Yeah, right.
And for a hot second, I just put it right above the scope where it would be in my attaché case, but then for organizing sake, I had to move the thing around.
Yeah. Chandler writes in the option, there's an option, naturally, to turn off an automatic reload. I just want to shout out that cool feature. It adds a lot to the feeling of chaotic fights when your gun doesn't fire and that problem doesn't start automatically fixing itself.
Oh, that is kind of cool. All
I
right.
like that as an idea.
Yeah.
By the way, to the one smart aleck on YouTube who's like, Hanson, YouTube comments, Hanson, there's literally an option in the menu so you can turn off the vibration for the footsteps for Leon. Maybe on PC or something. I double checked because that threw me for a loop. But you can turn off all vibrations. But again, that's not what I'm trying to do. I just want the footsteps to be removed.
And I'll have you know, in the Wii version, to reload your weapon, you had to like shake the Wiimote up
Ooh,
and down.
that's
You had to go
good.
like to
That
reload,
sounds
but
really
you'd be like in a
good.
fight, like frantically knifing and stabbing, and you would just be sitting there like shaking the Wiimote, like, why can't I reload?
Perfect. Forrest with 2 R's says, not being able to see the enemy's knees in the robe is such a huge pain during the castle section.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to turn this castle into Suplex City, and I've been hampered by 17th century knitting. Go, is this thing on?
Between a lot of legs, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I found that most of the time, if I'm shooting at the legs, it'll take the hit. It'll kind of swerve it, but maybe I'm just a better shot than I ever realized. Justin R says, it's a smart game design choice to never heal the character. It forces me to use my healing items because I won't wait until the next time I get healed and hoard items. Also, the pacing of the healing items and ammo seems to have been perfectly refined. Hell yeah, that's Resident Evil now. That is interesting. Yeah, I wonder if most games or some other design would like heal you at every chapter end or something like that, but it is so nice just to be fully under the assumption like this is on me. I don't need to wait for any magic moment to come through to restore my health or something, you know? Here's a hot question for you all. Is it just me, or are there not that many indie games clearly inspired by Resident Evil? Like where?
Oh, indie.
Well, like where are the Resident Evil clones out there?
They get a substantial amount of funding and they become games like Gears of War and Dead Space.
But isn't it weird? Am I missing something obvious? Like Resident Evil clone. I mean, obviously it's like, okay, Silent Hill was influenced in a big way by Resident Evil, yada, yada, yada. We got that, but it's weird that there's not just like one a year of like, okay, here's Annapurna's take on Resident Evil formula or something, you know?
I mean, I do kind of feel like there's something to it being like a third person shooter, right? Is like the big, that's the line in the sand that Resident Evil 4 draws. That's like over the shoulder third person shooter was a big change that we made to the industry. And as a result, it's very difficult to make one of those because the people who are making them are the big budget games.
Yeah.
It is a niche that is filled by EA and Microsoft, etc.
Yeah.
Where like a lot of time indie games inspired by games of the past are like answering a question that isn't being answered by the big guys.
Right. Oh, okay. In chat, people are saying Signalis. That's it. I guess PS1, but that feels a little bit different.
Not Resident Evil 4 though.
No, we're not Resident Evil 4. I will take any Resident Evil though. You know, I guess it's like the throwback kind of like PS1 looking survival horror stuff.
Right.
Like, I guess it's kind of
there. It
there.
seems like there should be more of those specifically. Yeah.
People are referencing Cold Fear, which came out in 2005 apparently.
Yeah, that was
oh my god.
It's not great, but it came out a couple years after Resident Evil 4. Yeah.
How did we not do a super replay on this? This feels like exactly
I'm sure we did
recipe.
a replay, but probably not a super replay.
I don't know, man.
I don't think it's a great game, is what it comes down to.
Oh, really? Yeah. Notch has a much more important question saying, I want to hear Ben's take on Ashley as a tiny mouse meme. I saw a couple people posting that in the Blank Check Discord, but I don't know.
Mousely.
Can you tell me the internet story here, Sarah? What's going on with this?
That's right. You don't have Twitter on your phone.
I don't scroll Twitter anymore. I'm an enlightened human being.
Ben doesn't scroll Twitter. Ben doesn't acknowledge the internet at any point.
That's right. And I eat vegetables every day.
You must just be like the healthiest, must have the healthiest mental state of anyone.
Can't you tell? Okay, what is this?
So the whole Mousely thing is because somebody, if you take Ashley's hair off her model, she has like ginormous ears.
Okay.
So like a creator, like a cartoon creator, drew her as a mouse. And then everyone else saw that, and now there's a million tiny cartoons of Ashley as a mouse. Because it just kind of also suits her.
It does.
You know, because she's just kind of like getting into trouble. She's small. She's like fragile. She's kind of annoying. But there's all these like memes of her like going after the cheese, getting stuck in a mousetrap. We're like missing a mousetrap, and then Leon gets stuck in the mousetrap.
That's
you know,
good.
because she doesn't call out about bear traps.
Right.
So that's where it comes from.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I mean, I love all sort of like, I'm really happy for Resident Evil 4. It feels like they're getting picked up a lot in terms of like artwork, like content creation, memes. Like, I'm really happy for them that they're kind of getting this boost because they did do a really good job. So
yeah, they're getting the internet culture has leaned into Resident Evil 4 in a new way. Yeah, that wasn't able to do back in 2005. It's kind of fun to see.
But all this is kind of moot because Resident Evil effectively put a stop to it by tweeting a mouse emoji and a cheese emoji. So like the parents have acknowledged
it's dead now.
Ish. God, yuck. Reed writes in and says, ooh, hot take here, Reed. The moon in Resident Evil 4 looks laughably bad. Not only is it pixelated, it's not even a circle. It's stretched into a tall oval. This is more apparent.
Actually, the Minecraft moon. It's a square.
This is more apparent when looking at it through a scope. Is this low-res asset straight from the original? Is it an Easter egg? Otherwise, the castle area looks nice. It's weird, too, because the RE Engine logo is the moon. So you think of one thing they'd want to make look really damn good. It'd be the moon, but...
It's like that Android phone. Did you hear about that? That you could people were taking pictures of the moon, and they're like, "Wow, this looks incredible," but it was like pulling up like a JPEG of the moon or something.
So dumb. So dumb.
That is weird. I gotta go look at the moon now.
Let's all go look at the moon in real life.
Yeah.
Do you like the moon, Jeffem?
I love it.
What was that about they announced the astronauts today? That seems like something you'd follow. What happened?
Yeah, I just saw that they picked some new astronauts. I don't know. Are they doing a moon mission now? Are we going back to the moon?
I thought I saw something about how we're...
Ben, did you have any other questions that you could like easily Google? Like, we got the Resident Evil mouse meme. Like,
Do you
what's
want
going
us
on
to
in the
just
news?
like give you the things that we saw on Twitter today because you don't know it anymore?
Can we start a new show where it's you guys just telling me? That sounds like such a healthier way to absorb the internet. I guess it's just yes, no, I guess. But Colton,
apparently they're orbiting the mission, not landing on the mission. So
cool.
Who cares?
I could do that.
That's a big nothing burger.
Yeah. Yeah. Call me when you land, buddy. This is one lesser step for mankind. Look at us. Colton L says, overall, I love this remake, but I have a small nitpick. You can't interact with objects the camera isn't pointed at. You can't open a box if you're not looking at the box. You can't open a door if you're not looking at the door. If you're running from an enemy and looking at the enemy you're running from, you cannot get Leon to jump off the ledge that's directly in front of him. In these few precious moments when you're being chased, you need to slowly turn the camera so that the X prompt will appear so that you can then jump off. Has this been a problem for any of you? I haven't noticed it, but I like that. Yeah. It is a thing. You're right. It never really clicked in my brain that's exactly what's happening there. Zach S., however, has something that they love. They say, when you shoot the metal containers that have treasure in them, you can see what the treasure is as it falls. And I think that's just neat. Hell yeah. That's a deepest dive comment. Love you, Zach. Craig G says, Luis's jacket is dumb.
Get out of here.
Is that no good?
Incorrect.
Okay. Incorrect. I'm sorry. Hey, everybody. I think that's it for community comments about the castle section for Resident Evil 4 Remake. Thank you to everybody who has supported us on Patreon. Again, if you jump in at that $2 tier, you can submit a comment for us to read on the final episode, the grand finale of the deepest dive on Resident Evil 4 Remake. You can also unlock the podcast version. And people tell me, most importantly, jump into that Discord to jump into the channel that's dedicated to everybody playing this game and sharing tips. It's the heart of this whole operation. The Discord's very good, and Haley McLean and the mods are doing a great job in there. So jump on in if you enjoy the Game Club format. This is your chance to help support it directly. Patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Thank you all for being here. For the next discussion, next week, we're going to be collecting your comments specifically on Sunday the 9th. We're covering everything else in the game. Chapter 12 through, maybe I won't even tell you how many chapters there are. Whatever is remaining.
Can you tell me how many chapters there are?
I'll tell you after this. Yeah, no problem. But the absolute rest of the game, we look forward to reading your comments. Jeffem, any predictions for the final third of the game? What do you know is in it?
I know nothing.
Great. Lay it out, man. What happens?
No. Is this the one with a volcano? Is there a volcano?
Okay, no one tell him yay or nay.
Okay, well, if there's a volcano, someone's fallen in it. Otherwise, yeah, I assume we're gonna leave the castle and go somewhere else.
If you had to guess, I know it slipped a little bit.
Based on all of the Resident Evil games, what they all have as a final level. Could you guess?
I don't think I could. A police house.
A police officer's house.
Which is what they're called, right?
Yep, and there's a volcano inside of this police house.
A police officer's house is where we're going to go.
Yes. That's right. Who do you think the final boss is going to be?
Well, see, now I feel like I'm drawing on potential spoilers from what I've heard of the Resident Evil, and I don't want to say it for that reason.
Okay, can you give a hint?
Well, it would be a character's name that we haven't seen in this game yet. So
interesting.
Right.
Okay. Is it a character from a previous entry in Resident Evil?
Man, I don't know.
You can say a guess. You can say a guess. You're welcome to guess.
Is there a Wesker in this
Whoa,
game?
whoa! Jeff,
What the heck? Dude.
what are you doing? We're trying not to spoil everything.
I don't know.
Jeff, I look forward.
Or am I just confused because I've seen Mauschli's whiskers referenced so often?
You tell us. Hey, we'll see who the final boss is. We're finishing this sucker next week, and I don't want to spoil anything, but we might have a special guest joining us as well. It's going to be a little cute mouse, so everybody get ready for that. All right, but that's it. Thanks so much again for watching and listening to The Deepest Dive. Truly the best, most thorough discussion about this game on the internet, thanks to your support. Sarah, I appreciate thee on a daily basis. And Kyle, I appreciate thee on a daily basis.
Every day. All right, thank you.
And Jeff, I appreciate thee on a bi-weekly basis.
I knew it.
That's right. All right, thanks so much for being here, everybody. We'll see you next time. Be good, have fun, let's go. Did you know that you can more than double the amount of podcasts from MinnMax every single week by supporting us at the $5 tier on Patreon? You don't have to listen through the browser or anything dumb like that. You'll get access to a private RSS feed if you support us on Patreon. You put it in your favorite podcast app, and then bam, you can listen to our weekly bonus podcast Party Chat, the podcast versions of The Deepest Dives, MinnMax interviews, Max spoilers, and you get the MinnMax Show podcast a day earlier than everybody else. So please help support independent games media. Head over to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's.